Welcome to our new video where we're going to build a WordPress website using Bricks Builder, which is a theme and a page builder all rolled into one, and it's a pretty neat tool. Now we're going to be building it where we take into account page speed optimization as well, good practice, REM, and I'm going to be using a bit of clamp calculation for responsive building as well. Now you do not need to follow everything I do, and I'm sure you're not going to like the ways that I do things, but this is what works for me. And I always say find what works for you, because a lot of website building is quite subjective. And this is what we're going to be building. It's going to be a pretty simple home page, but I just want to show you the basics of bricks and how you can do stuff that's quite imaginative in how you lay things out. We're also going to add in an about page, a contact page, and we're going to be adding in blogs as well. Now, I won't be covering off WooCommerce because of the length of the video, but I am going to be looking at RankMath integration as well and how you can get the best out of that with your keyword placement. Let's go over some key basics when you first install a WordPress website. Obviously, I hope you've sorted out your domain and your hosting. When it comes to hosting, make sure you got an SSL certificate so you can have HTTPS, because no one likes an insecure website, especially one that is a WooCommerce or an e-commerce store. Also, make sure you have daily backups, staging facility, the ability to do subdomains as well. Now, it's not the be-all or the end-all if you don't have that, because obviously we're going to add in extra plugins as well. But if your host provider provides a backup service and a staging facility, that's pretty damn good. For every WordPress website, I strongly recommend that you go over to settings, go to general, make sure it says HTTPS there. Sometimes, even though you got an SSL certificate and you've just installed WordPress as a brand new fresh installation, you might find that it's missing the S over there. So go and add that in and then go and hit Save Changes. On the reading setting is the facility for you to decide on what is your landing page or your home page. Now we can't do that because we don't have any pages accessible or built yet. But once we build our first home page, this will become visible and will return back to here. In the discussion tab, consider if you are going to allow comments or not. In the permalinks, do go for the post name as your permalink structure because the rest just don't make sense. Now, the media setting is probably my most favorite. When you first come into it, there will be values and these boxes here will be ticked. Untick them and set all of your sizes here to be 0. Seriously, do not worry about it, because if you leave the values in there, every time you add an image to your media library, a duplicate, a triplicate will be created in your WordPress database. And if you care about your storage space and your innodes, you really don't want that happening. So set it all to 0. Trust me, I do this on every website. Never had a problem. If we go to plugins, you'll now see the plugins that I've already installed. Now, you don't need to replicate everything I've got here. And there's a few that are missing. So let me tell you about the ones that are missing. We don't have a security one. I recommend you go for WordFence or all-in-one security and firewall plugin. We also don't have a staging plugin on here or a backup one in case we ever needed to create backups. My recommendations are Updraft Plus, WP Vivid, which is really good, or the all-in-one migration tool as well. Go and install them. Your host probably provides a service like that already, like I mentioned, but it's a good idea to have another backup facility built in. Now, the plugins I've added are mainly for page speed performance, SEO, and for a filtering system that we're going to use alongside bricks. Now, Code Snippet is my favorite. This stops me having to have a child theme. If you want to go for a child theme, be my guest. I just don't like messing around with child themes. Code Snippets allows me to mess around with the theme by using a much safer route. FastPress is one of my favorite page speed optimization plugins for WordPress, and I'm going to go through that in a moment. RankMath, we will cover that when we get onto the SEO stage right towards the end. And Gridbuilder and the Gridbuilder Bricks add-on, which you get as part of the license for Gridbuilder, is a premium plugin. It's about $49 per website, and you might say, hey, that's quite a lot. Believe me, it's worth its weight in gold when you're working with loop grid products or posts. These are the snippets that I've got enabled, and you will probably notice eventually when I get onto bricks that did I really need to have the remove Google font and the stop lazy load? Because the bricks theme that we're going to be using kind of already does that. I have found by sticking in these snippets, it pushes it a bit more further. And if you care about your page speed on Page Speed Insights, I strongly recommend you doing this. Now, I do want to add in the video description, we do have timestamps. You will see links to any other extra video that I think will help support what I'm saying, and also to go and get these code snippet codes. Look, these are really, really simple, right? You stick in the code, you hit save changes, you hit activate, and away you go. And it is a really simple, cool way of doing it. We're also going to stop the lazy load of items because I don't want any delays to affect our performance score. We're going to ensure our web font is loaded. We are going to be using custom fonts, right? We're not using Google fonts, because if you are using that, you are fetching from the Google website, and you will be breaching GDPR and every other law under the sun, and that's not good. And also it affects your website speed as well. We're also going to purge the site, which I have up here. This button over here is run by this bit of code. Believe me, you don't have to do anything with it. Just paste the code in and I give it to you in the video description. Once you've done it, you click here, you click OK, and that's now purged your site. I don't need to add in an extra plugin just to purge. FastPress plugin is one of the simplest setups I've ever seen. This is it. It's this entire page that I'm showing you right now. All you got to do is follow what I've done on screen. Make sure that you are not running it for this one here. Let the world know about FastPress. Why would you do that? And enable gzip compression. Make sure they're switched off. Make sure all of the images are also off, because we're already reusing bricks. And I'm using a few code snippets as well. So just make sure they are switched off. And down here, make sure all of these are on at the bottom, except load scripts asynchronously. Make sure that is off. If you leave that on, your templates won't work properly, okay? But that is it. It's a free performance plugin, and it works wonders with WordPress. And that's all it is in terms of page speed, performance, and WordPress. Obviously, you might want to add in more plugins. Maybe when you're doing posts, you want to have custom fields. And we'll explore that when we get onto that stage. But for now, this is all I'm going to have. If we go over to appearance and themes, this is where I've already loaded through the bricks theme. I've got version 1.73. There is a version 1.8 beta out where you can do a few more funkier stuff with like mega menus or a menu builder, but I'm just going to use the basic one that we have here for now. Once that's all installed, you will have the option over here called bricks. Let's just very quickly go through this. We have the getting started screen that I can basically skip through. I don't need to worry about it. We have the templates where we're going to create our header footer template and some other templates when we get onto the blog posting. We then have the settings tab. Now, these are the settings I like to go with when I'm working with a bricks website. You can see that I've enabled it for post and pages, and basically that's kind of it. Feel free to enable anything more that you want. Now, one of the key important ones is regenerate CSS files. Whenever you make any changes on any pages, make sure you click that. As far as builder access goes, if you've got multiple people accessing your website, are you going to enable them to have the ability to go and start messing around with bricks? Yes or no? When it goes to templates, I'll leave everything off. Within the builder one though, there are a few things I would recommend you do. I mean, the dark mode is much easier on the eye than the light mode. You will see an option when you do go into a bricks page over here, there'll be a yellow bee. When you click that, it will take you anywhere you want. And I actually prefer it just to take me back into WordPress. But rather than going into WordPress via the same tab, I would prefer it to open a new tab. So I've always got my page or template still open for me to jump back into. I'm going to say enable the duplicate and delete option on the structure. If you don't have that, when you go to the navigator, you're going to have to right click and delete. Whereas if you want a little shortcut icon, these two are pretty useful. And that is all I'm going to do there. In the performance tab, I am disabling emojis, Google Fonts, lazy loading. And I know we've added in a snippet and I've done it here. Isn't that duplication of effort? All I'm doing is reinforcing that I don't want any of my items to be lazy load, and I just don't want Google Fonts to be coming in. Now, if you were going to connect to MailChimp or Google Maps, you would go and put in your key via the API Keys tab. And if you want to go and dump in some custom code for your header or footer like Google Tag Manager or Facebook Pixels, not always a good idea, you could do that here in custom code. Or, for me, the safer bet is to go over to Snippets where we have code snippets and you add it in here. And the reason I love this tool is because if I decide, hey, you know what, I don't want the purge option or I don't want to go for that, I can deactivate and reactivate any one of them. Whereas if you go here, the custom code, imagine dumping in lots of different codes here. It's going to start to get very, very messy. So code snippets wins for me all day long. Another good thing is to make sure that any images you add into your media library are optimized. Now, if you go to any one of these images, you will notice that they are WebP, and nearly all of my images are a size of 1100 by 600 pixels, because I've already decided that I'm going to have a boxed width on the website, and that's the size I need. I'm not going to have any full width stretch images. If so, then I might have gone for a 1920 by 1080, and I might have hit edit image, done a bit of scaling, maybe even gone and done some cropping as well, like this. And you can see the values down here. Go and hit crop, which I'm not going to do. Also, when you look at the images, do you notice the alternative text that I have for the title? A lot of people tend to go with this. They add in an image, they've got a title that might be gobbledygook, lots of letters and numbers, which is not good. And then the alternative text is empty. That is not good for web accessibility, and especially bad when it comes to SEO. So make sure you give your images reasonable titles that actually make sense. I strongly recommend you use a tool like bulkresizephotos.com. This is what's really cool about this. I had 20 images that were a total of about 8.9 megabytes. If I take all of those images and dump them into here, and by the way, you can dump in 100 if you want. It handles it really, really well. I'm going to set the scale to be 100%. So if I've set it to be a certain size, maintain that. I'm going to set it to be a WebP. Maintain a transparent background if there is one, go for 85% and then hit start. And this is how quick it is. I once did about 100 odd images and it did it within about 30 seconds. We've gone from 9 megabytes to 944 kilobytes. Now you might say, but there are plugins and tools that can do that for you within WordPress. I have found they are not always brilliant. They don't optimize it to the nth degree, and sometimes they fail here or there as well. And it also means that every time you add in a new image, you have to wait for a short period of time before it's fully optimized. Also, it means that you're going to have a copy of a JPEG or a massive PNG still clogging up in your backend database. So my recommendation is get them WebP'd before you add them in. And you will also notice that I've got 6 fonts here. I'm using the Railway font. Another tip I have, and I will put a link in the video description, is go to fontsquirrel.com, go and grab your fonts and use the generator over there to convert any TTF font files into WOF2. Each one of these was about 185 kilobytes each. After converting them to WOF2, it went from 185 to 25. That's nearly 90% shaved off. In fact, it was 87% was shaved off the size. So that can make a big difference when you're loading fonts on your page. Now, once you got the fonts here, you want to go over to Bricks and go to Custom Fonts. And what you do is click Add New. You would then go and give it a title. And as you can see, I've already done it with Railway. And after you've given it a title, it will then say Add a font variant. So I've gone and added them in. And if I was to add in a new one and go, well, let's go for a 900 black, go to edit, go to upload, which you can see here, WOF2, WOF and TTF. I recommend you go for WOF2. You click the upload option and then you would pick it. Now, I don't have one in here for the bold 900 weight, but if I did, I would click it. And then after clicking it, I would hit the update button here. Now, if we go back to appearance and we go to customize, I'm going to click site identity. Make sure we've got a title and a tagline, which you could have done within the WordPress general settings as well. And I'm going to give it a favicon. My big tip to you is that whenever you have a logo that we have here, which is 280 by 45, make sure you've got a square version of that logo as well, roughly 500 by 500. It's good for social media sharing when you want to have a nice image, but it's really vital for your favicon as well. So if I select that, and I then hit skip cropping, basically it's going to be up here in the address bar next to your website name. If you don't do this, you'll have WP appearing as your logo or WordPress, which looks really unprofessional. Let's go and hit publish. That was the housekeeping of WordPress, Bricks, and getting our plugins in. Now let's start building the page. The process we're going to go through is first set up a menu so that we can at least place something onto the page. We're also going to create a home page, and then we're also going to create a header template as well. And we're going to do things in a slightly weird order, but you'll understand why I'm doing that as we go along. First thing we're going to do is go over to pages, all pages, and we are going to click add new. We are then going to go and type in the word home, and hit edit with bricks, and then I'm going to hit save draft, and then I'm also going to hit publish. So in pages we now have home and it no longer has the word draft. Now that I've got an actual page called home, I'm going to go over to settings and go to reading, and I can now select, remember this was not visible before, this was not here, so we can now go in and say that is our home page. I'm then going to go over to appearance, go to menus, and we're going to create our first menu. So I'm going to call it main menu. I'm going to hit create menu, and then I'm going to say add that to our main menu. Now let's go and create our header template. This is going to be a very simple template, and we're going to expand on it during the tutorial. So we go over to bricks, we click templates, and I'm going to click add new. Now, you do have the option to import. So if someone has provided you with a template or you've purchased one, you could click import and then go and choose your file and import it in. I'm not going to do that. I like to build things from scratch to work for me or my client. Let's click add new. And I'm going to give this a title. And then over on the right hand side, I'm now going to pick header. Now, please bear in mind, if you do not pick this here, don't worry, because the moment you hit edit with bricks, it will say, well, hold on, it's a template, but what kind of template? So if you forget to do this, don't worry. We're going to hit header, and then I'm going to hit edit with bricks. Now is a fantastic time for us to actually go over the interface of bricks when you're actually in here. We have a yellow logo. Do you remember what I did in the settings? If I click this in another tab, it takes me back into WordPress. My other tab is still there. This is why I like to say open it in a new tab. I'm going to close that down, so I'm back over here. We have an option over here to modify our states. Now, when we're working with buttons, we're going to build a button, give it a background color, give it typography, styling, etc. But what about a color change when we want to do a hover on it? Which is really good from a web accessibility point of view. Very, very important, in fact. That's when we're going to use these state or these pseudo classes, and we'll come back to that at the right time. This icon will take us to the help section. We have a facility for pages. Now, once we've built out lots of pages, we can go and jump into them. So I'm in the header template at the moment. If I was to click home, it would take me into the home page. We have the facility to kind of rewind if we've got lots of changes we want to undo or redo. We then have the settings tab, and I will come back onto this in a moment because there's a lot more to say about that. And we have the plus sign to go and see all of the elements. In the middle here, we have the ability to reload the canvas. Now and again, you'll do something on the page and it doesn't look quite right. Just reload the canvas, and that's literally what it does. We can jump around between different breakpoints. We can modify the width of our page as well. So if I was to go and change this now to be 500, that's the size, and it's kind of jumped into the mobile landscape as well. We can also change the height as well. So maybe you're trying to build for a particular viewport. Now this one here is quite important. I can currently see 100% of the screen, but I bet if you were working on a MacBook Air, this is probably going to be about 80%. And if you're on a Surface Pro, it might even be 75%. If I start to shrink down my screen, it's now gone to 58%. Even though it has shrunk down, what it's telling you is that everything you build is still there, but you're viewing it at 66% of what it is in real life. So if you would go and build a button on here, and you make the button really big because you can't read it, bear in mind that when you actually go back to 100%, that button now might be huge, humongous. So bear that in mind. So if you are working on a small screen, keep an eye out on the percentage change there. You can also undo or redo over here. We can hide this navigation structure like that and bring it back. We have the option to go and hit templates when we click that folder. Now, I currently only have the header template because I'm currently working on it. The more you add, the more you'll see here. And if anyone has built anything, you can go and access the community templates. This is slowly growing. There are more. There's a decent selection here, but like I said, I prefer to build my own items. You can also export as well. Now, if you hit the edit in WordPress icon, it does not take you into WordPress like this item here. What it does is take you back a step. So what will happen is you'll go into the block editor. I see no reason to do that unless, however, you are working on a post and you could see that the items on the post were not right, then you might want to jump back into it. And then we have the preview mode, and this allows you to now view the screen without any distraction. However, you're not viewing it in its entirety. So when you try and interact with, say, testimonial carousels or sliders or even navigation toggle bars, it won't work until you hit this to go view on the front end. And I'll come on to that when we get to that stage. I'm going to go back to the builder by clicking the yellow eye again. And of course, we have the save option over here, which is basically just
save.
We have the plus sign here where we can now instantly add a section and container. I'm actually going to remove them by clicking the delete option. Remember, we enabled duplicate and delete on the structure in the settings. This was why. So we get the shortcuts, or I could delete them in their entirety like that as well. We could also pick from a predefined layout. So this over here is a section. This here is a container with 2 child containers, or 2 boxes even. This is a container with 3 boxes inside, and we might use some of these, but sometimes I like to just go with a standard section container, and we will be using them as we go along. We can also enable the templates folder that was over here again, which we're not doing at the moment, and you can access tips about how to create a header template as well. Now let's go visit the setting that I kind of skipped a little bit. Over here where we have settings, we have theme style, page settings, and template settings. The template setting is only relevant when you have a template, like a header, a footer, a single post, a products archive, because this is where you get to decide on where is the header going to be visible. Is it on the entire site? Is it going to be a sticky header? We will come back to this once we've built the headers. Let's just go back a step again. We then have the theme style and the page setting. The page setting is more relevant for pages rather than the header template. Here we can define what happens on the page in terms of margin. So we might say, I don't care what is put on this page, there will always be a 2 rem or a 20 pixel. I'll talk about this in a moment, by the way. Okay, I'm going to come on to this, to the rem bit. We're going to have that forever on the left-hand side of the page. I don't care what you add in, that is what's going to happen. So you could define that from the get-go if you want. You can also go and start messing around with your SEO in terms of titles and descriptions. However, we are going to be using RankMath, so I prefer to skip that. Social media is not always a bad idea, because when you do share this page on social media, don't you want it to show a particular image? It might be an image of the page, a featured image, it could even be a picture of you or a logo. And you can also go and add in some custom CSS or coding. Let's go back to settings, and now we're going to go to theme styles. Now I've already added in one because I want to show you what happens if you have more than one and how you can jump between the two. This is a theme style called Bricks, and I have set it to be visible on the entire website. And I have now gone and predefined certain things with regards to the links and the typography. The idea behind this is that you could create a particular style where all of your buttons are a certain color and style, where all of your typography is a certain style. You know, every widget on here, you have a list of all of them there. You can predefine the style. And it doesn't matter where you are on the page, whenever you drag that button in, it will have that style enabled. And that's really great from an efficient way of working. However, what if you want to have a style that is only relevant on, say, the blog page, and for the rest of the website, you want a different one? Well, you could go into your conditions and say, enable this on the entire website. However, exclude it from, say, a particular post type. I mean, I haven't really got any in here. So I might say, entire website, but don't do the post type, exclude it for that. And then I might create another theme style where this time it is only for the post type. So I might not have now, let me get rid of this one here. It's only enabled over there. So you can start to mix and match. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely get rid of what we've got here and start from a new. By the way, you could, if you want, just hit create, and we're going to create a brand new one here. Call it Bricks New, and we hit create, and you can now see we have 2 different styles. For simplicity, I am going to get rid of this Bricks one so that we don't muddy any waters here. I'm just going to delete it and say, yep, that is for sure completely gone. We're now going to pick the Bricks New one that we've just created. Let's go and set the condition for it. Click the drop down, click add condition, and I'm going to go for the entire website. And then I'm going to just minimize it. Now you will notice that as soon as you've done that, a little yellow dot appears. That means you've set something. If you want to get rid of it, you can either go in and unset it, or go and hit the X to get rid of it, or you could just hit the X over here. And you might have done about 5 different settings inside of there. It eliminates all of them in one go. Let's just pop that one back on again. We also have a setting for general. So are you now going to make your website be boxed? My website is going to be boxed, but I want it to be defaulting to wide. In fact, no, not wide. Leave it like that. I want it to kind of not be set because I might mix and match things up as I go along. I'm not going to set a background color either like that. I'm not going to do that, okay? Because again, I want to have the flexibility. However, if you know your website is going to be really dark or a pastel color, you can make it easy on yourself and just go and enable it, right? Why wait? Why start coloring every single section and container? Just do it from the get-go. Let's now go down to our colors. Now, this is where you can set your primary, your secondary, and other colors over here. You could use your primary color for, say, your buttons, your headers, your tabs, anything like that. And if you were to set a red color, it will apply it. If you were to then later on, 2 months down the line, go, oh, we're going to go for blue now, you come here and you change it once, it will change it throughout your website. I'm not always a fan of working in that way because sometimes it can get a little bit messy. What I'd rather do is just work with a default color scheme. So let me show you how I go about and build that. If I go and hit primary color, you will notice here I've already predefined my colors. And the way I did that was to go down here and I created a default one. Let me show you what I did. I'm going to hit create new and I'm going to call this max. And I'm going to go and hit create. Hit the pencil and say, make this be my default one. So whenever I open any widget on my website, rather than the default one being shown, because it was called default, so very imaginative name, I know, Max will now be the default scheme that comes up. At the moment, Max does not have any colors. So here's what you do. You go and put in your hex codes. And then what you do is you hit save. Now you might look at it and go, but it's gone and set it for the primary color. Don't worry. I'm going to go and hit save again and now it's there. I mean, I am going to eliminate this color anyway. Look, I've eliminated it from the primary color, but I now have a new color in the max scheme. Let's go and add in another color. And now I have a bit of a purpley blue color. I'm going to hit save and now it's added in over there. And again, I'm going to get rid of it from the primary color. So I'm creating a new color scheme that will be visible for me. Now I actually want to stick with the default one. I'm going to click the pencil and make that be my default and hit save. Because I've already decided on my color scheme. They are bricks colors I've added in there. Because we are going to have a bit of a bricks theme on our website. Except it won't be dark. It's going to be quite light. And I hope you like it. Now, I'm not going to mess around with any other settings that we have here. Except the links and the typography. I'm going to go to links. And all I'm going to do is set the font family. I'm not going to do the sizes here. You can do. All right, I know a lot of you right now are going,
damn it, man, do it here. What you're messing around for?
I have a way of working and I would rather do it the way I do, but if you want, you can go and define it here. All I'm going to do is go to typography, go to the font family and make sure I've picked my custom font. I'm not going to pick any of the standard fonts. I mean, we're not loading Google fonts anyway. I'm going to pick my custom font and that is it. I'm not setting the weighting. I'm not setting the font size. I'm not setting if it's uppercase or the letter spacing or anything like that. Because we're going to do that with some clamp calculations later on. Let's now close down the links and go to our typography. And all I'm going to do is change it for the body and the all headings. I'm not going to do it for header 1, header 2, header 3, header 4. No, because I'll do that on the fly when we start building. So let's go to body, go to font family, set that to be railway. Go to all headings and set that to be railway as well. You want to get rid of it? Hit the X and it will be eliminated. But that is it. I'm not going to set any other styling for anything else. I mean, I could do it for the button. I kind of know my sizing and my color. But I want to show you how we can get the most out of the bricks class system when we start building. These are the key things you need to get your head around and understand when it comes to using bricks. In fact, WordPress. Because if you just jump in and start playing around, you're going to go wrong and you're going to go, damn, I wish someone had told me about the colors. That's where I set my default colors or the conditions for my theme or anything like that. Now you're ready to go and build your header template. Our header is going to be very simply a logo in the top left and a navigation menu in the right. I'm going to hit the plus sign and straight away add in a section and a container that you can see here. When I click on any one of these items, I will now have the ability to change the content and the layout. We are using Flexbox containers. We're not building with CSS Grid because I want to keep this as accessible as possible to a lot of people that aren't really familiar with CSS Grid yet. Another video may come out one day where we jump into that, but not just yet. And we have the style tab as well, where you can start to mess around more with your margins, your paddings. I'm not going to do anything to the section. That's all it is. Instead, I'm going to go to the container. And this is where I'm going to start to mess around with the direction. My big tip when it comes to building is get your items in. Once you've got your items in, then you're going to have a much better idea over your direction and your alignment. You can do it now. I mean, I know what I would go for, but get your items in first. And then you're going to better understand your margin and your padding, because you might have done it in Figma, Adobe, or something else. And what looks good on the screen and paper might suddenly feel a bit different once you've got the items on. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go over to Element, and I am going to go and drop in a image. By the way, just click on Container. Let me show you what happens if you don't click on Container. So I've clicked on Section now, and I'm now going to go and click in a image like that. And the image now is actually outside of the container. We have Section, we have Container, and we have the image. It's not inside the container. It needs to be inside. Now, I could do this in two ways. I could either pick it up and move my mouse over the container and it will now drop into the container. Or if I just remove it, make sure you're clicked on the container, go and hit Elements, and now when you click Image, it will drop inside. I'm now going to click on the image, and I'm now going to select what image will sit inside of there from the Content tab. We're going to click that, and I'm going to go for this logo here, which is 280 by 45 pixels. I'm going to insert that. I'm going to ensure that it is set to a full resolution. I'm going to scroll down to link to, and I'm going to say that when you click on this, it brings you back to the home page. So we click there. Go to other URL. I mean, look, you do have the option to go to the media file if you want, which is okay if you want to have a lightbox image pop up. We're going to click the drop down, and rather than it going to an external URL like Google or something else, we're going to go to internal. And then over here, I'm going to, we've already got the word home there. You could have typed it and it would have appeared. So we're just going to pick the home page like that. I'm then going to go to the style tab, go to layout. And this is where I now get to decide on the width of this item. Go for 200 pixel like that. Now, please don't worry about the fact that it's right up against the top border or the margin, because we are going to adjust that. But what I'm doing right now is just setting in my size. The next thing we're going to do is add in our navigation menu. So I could just type in nav and we're going to drop this in. If you are using version 1.8 or the beta version, you will have the option for a nestable nav, which is a menu builder. If you want to have a mega menu, or you want to have a drop down or a multi-link, and I'm going to put in a link to a video that goes through some of the settings of how to use that. Let's just go and click that and get our nav menu in. Now, our nav menu sits below the image. And this is where you now start to have a think about your placement and your layout. If we click on the container and we go back to the content, at the moment, everything defaults to the vertical or the column approach, which is what we have here. If I go and hit reverse, it reverses it. Let's put it back. If I hit row, it puts them side by side like that, as in rows. If I hit reverse, it flips it to the other side of the screen, but now the home is before the logo. Let's just take the reverse off. That's great, but I don't like how that is kind of hovering at the top rather than in the middle. And I want it to be equally, well, not equal, I want it to be spaced out. So if we go over here to the align cell, I'm going to skip this one and come back to it in a moment, okay? We're still in the container. I'm going to go over to my align main axes. Everything is defaulted to start, center, end. Look, start, just so you know where start was, end. Space between, space around, and space evenly. It's pretty obvious I want to go with space between. The home is still like near the top rather than in the middle of that container. So let's go over here now to where we have align cross axes. If I do that, it goes to the bottom. If I do that, it's now in the center. Now you might look at that and go, perfect, all done. Well, let me just preview that and show you why we're not done. So let's hit save and hit preview. The home and the logo are not right across the screen. I have not said make this be 1000 or 700 in width. This should be going all the way across. So why isn't it? Quite simply, it's one of those things that you might not spot unless you've got a very wide screen. So here's what we need to do. We go to our container and we say stretch like that. And now you're going to go, well, it only moved a tiny bit. It actually moved a lot more than that. Your home is over there and your Code Fatale logo is now here. It's moved a lot. But now things look really cramped, right? Right up against the edges. Who wants that? So let's go in and alter that. I'm going to go over to my container. I'm going to go to Style, go to Layout, and this is where I'm now going to mess around with, well, how far do I want them? I'm going to go in and apply some padding. I'm going to go with 1.5 REM, 2 REM on the right, 1.5 REM on the bottom, and 2 REM on the left. But those of you that are not used to REM, you're probably now just staring at the screen and going, why are you not using pixels? 1.5 REM is equal to 15 pixel. 2.2 REM, is equal to 20 pixel. How do I know that? Well, I very cunningly did not want to show you that until we get to it. If we go over to Settings and I go to Theme Styles and we go to Typography, I very quickly skipped past it, intentionally. Do you notice it says 62.5%? Standard browser default root HTML is 16 pixel. So normally 1 REM would have been the equivalent of 16 pixel. 2 REM would have been 16 times 2, 32 pixel. That can start to feel a little bit complicated when you're trying to, get things to be nicely evenly split when you're building a website. So what Bricks have done, they have defaulted it to 62.5%. 62.5 of 16 is 10 pixel. So if you were to enter in a value of 10 REM, that is now 100 pixel, and it makes it a lot easier to work through in your head. 11 pixel, 1.1 REM. It's just a simpler way.
Mathematically.
And if I move between the breakpoints, it follows that value through. Now, you might decide that 2 REM is too much on the mobile and you want to shrink it down to 1 REM or 1.5. If so, just go and add in your new values over here. I'm actually going to leave that as it is because I think it's okay. Now, there's a lot more we need to do to the nav menu in terms of styling, but it's going to make much more sense when I do that when we've got further items. I just want to show you the placement, and we're going to revisit this later on in the tutorial with regards to the styling of the nav menu. Make sure you've gone and hit save, and now go and set the display conditions for our menu. Let's hit the settings, go to template settings, click on header, and decide, is this going to be a sticky header? At the moment, it's not. If you go for a sticky header like that, every time you scroll down, it will always be visible at the top. I don't want a sticky header for what we're building. I'm going to go to conditions, and I'm going to say that this header is visible on the entire website. Again, you could have a different header for the homepage as opposed to the rest of the website. So please don't feel like you're restricted into just using one header. And that is our header template done. I haven't done a massively complicated header there with putting in social media icons because I want to keep it very, very simple for the look that we're going for. Now let's go and work on our homepage. I could jump back into WordPress, go to Pages, find the homepage, edit with Bricks. Or I could go to Pages over there, click that, and then click Home. And it jumps instantly into there. So we've kind of reduced the amount of clicks we're doing and probably waiting. The header is already visible on the page because we've activated it to be visible on the entire website. If you hover over here, it will say Edit Header. If I click that, I've now got my home page open in a tab and I've got my header open in another tab. So I could quite easily make some changes, go and hit save, go back to my home page and then reload the canvas. Now I'm just going to close that header template so we don't mess things up. But you can very quickly and easily jump around. In Canva, I mocked up a rough layout for the page so you get a bit of an idea for the look I'm going for, just so I know what I'm playing with. And we're going to create something that I hope you really like with Bricks. The first thing we're going to do is add in a section and a container. We're then going to have a header and an image, and I'm going to show you how we can overlap it without having to resort to absolute positioning. So I'm going to hit the plus sign, and we have a section and a container. Now my section isn't going to have much done to it except the layout, where I'm going to add in a little bit of padding on the left and right. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say 2 REM and do the same as well on the right, and this will become You'll understand why in a moment, okay? So just bear with me, because I want to make sure that when we add in an image, there's always a bit of a spacing or a gap from the edge of the screen. And from the top, I'm going to go with 5 rem is 50 pixel, 1 rem 10 pixels. I'm then going to click on our container and I'm going to drop in a background image. But before I do that, I want to kind of set the prerequisites or the sizing of that container. Now, I've already mentioned that I'm using REM, but sometimes I like to just go back to normal pixel because I don't want to mess around too much. Now, a lot of you are going to say, why are you mixing it up? But come on, okay, really?
Is it such a major problem?
I don't think so, and I'd love to hear your comments below. Please put them in. We're going to go to the Layout tab, go to Sizing, and in the width, I'm going to put in 1100. That is the width of my container, and the height of it is going to be 600. I will then minimize the layout, go to Background, and I'm going to give this a background image. So I select my image, and I'm going to go for this one. Notice the size, 24 kilobytes, because it's a WebP, 1100 by 600. Pretty simple and easy, right? I'm not going to change the background attachment. If you want to go with like a parallax effect, you would go with that. And then as you scroll up and down, the image will move with you. I don't want that. I'm going to set this to be a top center image like that, slightly adjusted it a bit. I'm going to say no repeat, and I'm going to have this be a cover image. Literally, that's it to the container. However, I will be coming back to revisit the align main axes once you see what I do next. Now into here, I want to drop in a heading and another image that's going to overlap or sit on top. Now this is what you could do, and this is what you don't want to do, but let me just show you what you could do. I could drop in a heading, and I could go in and drop in an image, which is over here. I'm going to click on the image, select image, and I'm going to pick this image here, which is a transparent, a Bricks logo WebP, 1 kilobyte, 500 by 500. This is why I keep stressing the WebP. It is 1 kilobyte. It makes a difference to what is being loaded on your website. Let's go and insert that. There we go. Now, ignore the size, okay? Ignore the size just for a moment. I want this image to be to the bottom of the container. So let's go back to our container and let's now go and align it by hitting end. It's now gone down, but I want the heading there, the headline, to also be over the image. And this is what you might do. You might go to Style, go to Layout, scroll down until you get to Positioning, go and hit Absolute, and then you're going to go, there you go. It's now absolute within the section. We'll now add in a bit of margin or padding and get it to where we want. I don't like doing things that way, so let me undo everything I've just done like that. So we're back to the section and the container. Instead, clicking on the container, I'm going to go and drop in a block like that. The block is over there. You can just about see it. It's just there. I'm now going to ensure that my container is pointing to the bottom because I undid it. Go back to my block. Now go to Style for the block. Go to the background for the block. And now I'm going to put in an image for the block. And we're going to go and put this one in now. Now, please don't worry. You're going to go, well, that looks nothing like it. That's because it's applied a cover effect. Stay with me on this. We're going to go over here. And I'm going to say ensure that we have no repeat. And we are, in fact, no, let me show you what happens if you had got it on repeat. It's quite funny. Let me change the cover to be contain, a castle turret effect. Let's now go and put it onto no repeat, just so you get to understand. Now the size of that is ridiculously small, but that's because we haven't set the size. And this is where we're going to now start to mess around with a bit of clamp responsiveness. Let's go to the layout. I could, if I want, go and do this and say, hey, you know what? We're going to make the width be 400 and we're going to make the height be 400 as well, like that. There you go. That's the actual look I want to go for. If I now jump over to the mobile, it's just too big. That's not good. Now I'm going to change the size and say, well, let's go for a 300 and we'll go with a 300 there. That's better. But what happens here? Now I've got to change it for that breakpoint, and then I've got to change it for that breakpoint. And if you've got maybe 20 other breakpoints, you're going to do it for all of them. But there is something else that is also a little bit annoying. Let me just add in a bit of a heading, and then we're going to modify all of that in the way you should approach it. Inside the block, we're going to go and drop in a heading like that. I'm going to go to the block and I am going to say set this to be at the bottom like that. I'm going to go to my style for the block and I'm going to say give me about 2 REM from the left, 2 REM from the right, and 2 REM from the bottom. Basically 20 pixels going all the way around like that. And let me give this a bit of styling. I want to reiterate that I'm showing you the way you don't want to do it, just so you learn and understand, because I bet a lot of you are following what I'm saying you don't do. We go to the typography for the heading. It will already have a color applied. I'm going to go and hit color, and I'm now going to pick one of my colors like that, okay? And then I'm going to go and give it a size. Let's go with 3 REM. No, let's go with something bigger. Let's go with 4 REM like that. Okay, let's then go to our mobile. Let's go with 3 REM like that. And again, you're going to go, well, Imran, what's the problem? You've got it big on the desktop. You got it small on the mobile. Why are you crapping kittens? Let me show you why. And I'm going to go to my tablet and I'm going to say now for the heading over here, make it be 3.5 REM. And for my block, for my layout size, make it be 350. So let me now save it. So we've done it on the mobile and we've also done it on the tablet. Let me now show you what would happen as I shrink down my screen. You will notice that as I go down, we're going to get a bit of a white space on the left and right. Remember our section, we had a padding of 2 REM on the left and right. But look at the grid and look at the text there, okay? This is the desktop view. And as I see that jump, did you see that? Look, there's a jump. Look at that, boom. We go from 400, 350, and we go from 4 REM, was it 4 REM, to 3.5 REM. Look at that. It's not very natural, is it? And the way you can get around that is to actually make it responsively change with a nice shrinking effect. So what we're going to do is go back into our page. I'm going to go to the mobile and make sure I get rid of those values. In fact, I could just hit the X bit. We'll do it on the tablet as well. Get rid of that, get rid of that. I don't think we did it over there. Nope. We're going to go back to our desktop. And I'll tell you what, let's just get rid of it there as well. Get rid of it. Let's go to our heading. Let's go to our mobile. Let's just get rid of the typography. Check we did it anywhere else. Get it over there. And we'll go here and we'll get rid of it there as well. What we're going to do instead is start with the block first. We're going to go to the layout. We're going to go down here to where we've got the width and height. And rather than putting in 400, we're going to pop in a calculation. And this is where I'm going to pop a link in the video description where we share our free clamp calculation generation tool. We built this. It's an Excel spreadsheet. You can use it. It's free. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to pay for anything. It's completely free for you. I'm going to go over here to the second tab where I can just enter in my values once. I am now going to say that between a certain threshold of screen, what is the biggest size and what is the smallest? I'm going to say my smallest width is 350 pixel and my largest size is 1100. I will explain this in a moment. Just stay with me on this. I am going to say our smallest size for our box is going to be 300 and our biggest size will be 400. By the way, if you don't like using pixel and you want to use REM, go and click over here, pick REM and then go and change that to be REM. Either way, the calculation will work regardless of what you go for. I'm just going to put this back to be something like that. There you go. So what that is saying is that the size of the box will be between 400 and 300. When you are at 1100 width, the box will be 400. If it is 1500, it will still be 400. That's the maximum. When you get to 350 in pixel width size, or box width, or whatever, screen size, the smallest you'll go to is 300. So if you're looking at this website on a Nokia 3210, which is impossible, but let's say you were, on a really small screen, the smallest size it will ever go to is 300 pixel for the width of that box. And what it does is generate a calculation or a formula for us over here. Now, you do not need the H1, the font size, anything here, and you don't need the semicolon and the close bracket. But don't worry. But there's one thing you should do, though, even though it's worked it all out. Can you see the problem on the page? And the eagle-eyed viewers will notice this. It says the root HTML is 16, because for most page builders, that will be the norm. What you want to do is go and hit 10. And you'll notice all of the formulas now change. Because if you leave it as 16, it will work, but it won't work exactly how you intend it to. So we are now going to copy that code, go to block, go to layout, go to the sizing width. We are going to paste this in. I'm going to get rid of the end semicolon and curly bracket. I'm then going to get rid of everything before the word clamp, like that. And you might say, but it still hasn't changed. That's because we haven't defined the height as well. So I'm just going to paste the exact same formula that we had before, because they're kind of equal to one another. That is done. But before I now show you how that looks, let's now go and do our heading as well. By the way, whenever you apply any clamp calculation or formula, make sure you do it on the desktop. Don't enter it on the mobile, because what we're doing now removes the need for us to go and do it again on the tablet or any other breakpoint. Now, before we go and apply it to the heading, should we go and change the wording for it? So let's just go over to content. I'm going to make this be a H1. By the way, whenever you do that, you will start to pull through default sizes, but don't worry, we're going to overwrite that. I'm going to say this is a hero type, and I'm not going to link the words to any external or internal URL. I'm then going to go over to the style. Now, the style I apply here, I want to reuse it maybe elsewhere on the website. And this is where we're going to introduce the class system. We haven't used it yet, and you're probably thinking, damn, this video is going on for ages. When is he going to do the class? This is the point when we bring it in. Right at the top over here, and do make sure you're clicked in heading. I'm going to go and give this a title. I'm going to call it Heading Hero. There are many ways and conventions for how you could do this with BEM, but I like to do a way that works for me because I'm building it. I'm going to hit the crate. Now you will notice that we have the word Heading Hero and we have the word well, it's in yellow as well. I will show you why that's quite important and why you need to watch out for when it is yellow or not. We're now going to go down here to where we have typography. I'm now going to go and set the color. When it comes to the font family, remember we set that in our theme settings. It's already defaulted to Railway. I am going to say make it be, I think we'll go with an 800 3.5 REM. And very quickly, I'm going to jump over to the mobile and just say, well, what would it look like if it was a 3 REM? Way too big. What about 2.5 REM? That is now better. So now I know my upper and my lower. I'm going to delete it from the mobile desktop, and I'm going to delete it there as well. Then I will go to my clamp calculation tool. I've now changed this to say REM. I'm going to maintain my minimum maximum thresholds. And I'm going to say the maximum size is 3.5 and the minimum is 2.5, like that. And can you see it's now changed it over here for us? We then copy that code, go back over here. Remember, we're only doing this on the desktop. We paste it in, get rid of the semicolon and the curly bracket at the end, and then get rid of everything before clamp. That is done. But I think we should go a little step further. Now, I'm not quite liking the line height over here. Now, we know this is 3.5 REM as per the calculation. And if I do 4 REM, so increase it by 0.5, that now looks a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is delete that, go over to my clamp calculation, and I now know that I'm going to increase this by 0.5. So I'll do that there and over there. Again, you copy the code, pop it in for your line height, get rid of any bits of the code you don't need. Now watch what happens as I shrink down. You're going to start to see the box gradually going down, and even the wording and the line height. Look, all of that is shrinking down. You're not getting that jump. So it doesn't matter what size screen you got. You're in full control, and it's so much easier to do. And all we did was add in some calculations. And this is something I like to go on about. When you spend time making the perfect section or container with your items, you can start to reuse components, because what you can do is you can just duplicate it, and it's already got some bits of it inbuilt, and it makes it so much more efficient rather than going, oh, now I've got to do the tablet. Oh, there's a brand new device come out. Oh, the iPad Pro is now a bit bigger and I've got to worry about that. I've seen people with like 12, 15 breakpoints, and I'm like,
What are you doing?
so this is a much more efficient way of building. Now, going back to the header, what I want to do though is now start to explain what we've got over here with the yellow convention of the global class. I am going to go in and drop in another header into this block over here. If I click on that heading and I now go over here, I can now pick one of our classes. So look at the word I am a heading when I do this. The size has now changed and it's actually brought forwards or through even all of those calculations. If I was to now go, oh, you know what? I don't want that header to be black. I want it to be white. If I go in and now pick white, it will apply it to the one above as well. So let me just undo that. So how can I change the color of that? Because I still want the calculation, but I don't want to touch the original. Well, you know where it's got the yellow? Just go and hit the X, clear it out. It is still applying the styling for it. So now I could go, hey, make that be a white header. It's still got the responsive clamp and all of that is still built in. Now, if I was to go and hit the X, now it's completely gone. So the class system allows you to start creating almost like scripting out, well, I'm going to have this style for the body text. I'll have this for one of the headers with my icons. I'll have this for my buttons as well. And we're going to do more of that as we go along. Now, what we're going to do is first get rid of that. And we have what I like to think is our perfect section. What we're now going to do is create another section below, and really, really quick and easy. I'm just going to duplicate like that. So now we have the same thing. It's going to look completely different to this, but I just want to reiterate how you can keep it simple for yourself. I'm going to get rid of the heading. I'm going to get rid of, well, we're going to leave the section, we're going to leave the container, and we're going to leave the block. I'm going to go over to my container, go to my background even, get rid of the background. I'm going to go to my block. I'm going to get rid of that as well. What I now have is a section which already has the 2 REM on the left and right. We do currently have 5 REM from the top though, and I am going to get rid of that as well. It's not very clear what you've got here at the moment, so just stay with me on this, okay? So we've got 2 REM and 2 REM. We then go to our container, which is a 1000 width, and we have a 600 height. I'm actually going to kill that off. So now the height is not set yet, but we do have the 1100. And I'm going to go to my block, which, if you remember, had 2 REM on the padding left and right, which I'm going to completely get rid of as well for now. And I'm going to get rid of the clamp calculation as well. Now, that was a slightly long-winded way of doing it. I could have just added in a brand new section container, gone and set my styling in for that over here, the 2 REM, and then done the container and then done the block. You could do. You could even go over here, copy the section style and paste it over here. Look, I could do that. I could do that. And what it does though is bring back the 5 REM, so let's delete it. I just want to show you that there are ways you can do it to help yourself out. But if you feel like you're going to forget, oh yeah, was there this value or that value, or was it 1100 or whatever, you can go and do that on the fly. Not on the fly, you can do it to help yourself out. I could, if I want, set a class now for the container to be 1100. And every time I bring forwards another container, I ensure I go and pick a class name for the container. And it might be container boxed width 11100. I could give it a name like that so I know what it is. I'm not going to do that because I'm keeping it pretty simple for a lot of you, and I don't want to screw your mind up because we've already started talking about the class system, and we started looking at some responsive clamping as well. We have a section, we have a container, and we have a block. I'm now going to duplicate the block. So inside here, we now have 2 blocks. It's not very clear because you can't really see them yet. I'm going to go to my container and say I want the blocks to be side by side. Do you remember what we do? We go and change the direction. Now I have 2 blocks side by side over there. I'm going to go to the very first block and I'm going to go in and add in an image. I'm going to go to Style. I'm going to go to the background and I'm going to pick, we'll go with this image over here. I'm going to go and say, set it to be top center, no repeat, and we're going to leave, in fact, we're going to make it be a cover image like that. Now, at the moment, you can't see the image very well. And that's because we've got nothing in there at the moment. Well, when I say nothing in there, we haven't gone and set the height. I will go to the height, and I'm probably going to set this to be 350 pixel. I could, if I want, put in 35 REM as well, but I'm going to be very prescriptive and just go with 350 pixel. I want it to always be 350 pixel. In the second block, I'm going to drop in a little bit of text. Now, you have the option of basic text or rich text. Basic text is literally, that's all you get. With the rich text, you get a little bit more. So let's go with the rich text. I'm now going to dump in some text. Again, I just went and got this off a chat GPT. I said, go and create some wording for me relating to a female maverick web designer. The styling of that is completely wrong. So let's go and make it a lot better. The first thing I'm going to do is go to my section. I'm going to go to my style. We have 2 REM and 2 REM as the padding. I'm going to go to my margin and I'm going to say, give me 10 REM. In fact, let me type in 10 properly. 10 REM, 100 pixel difference from the top. You'll notice on the left and right, if you can see it properly over here, we already have 2 REM applied because that's 20 pixel, because remember, it's already there. I don't like how close the wording is to the image. Well, we can sort that out. We go to our container. You go to column gap, and I'm going to say, give me 5 REM. That's 50 pixel. That's now looking a little bit better. But that text is a little bit too small. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to click on the text. We're going to go and create a class. I'm going to call it text-body like that. So that's my body text that I'll use throughout the website. We hit create, okay? We go to style. We go down to where we have the typography. I'm going to pick my color that I've already picked before as well, the dark color. I'm going to set the weight of this to be 400, a bit like that. So just a little bit darker. You could go for uppercase or even like capitalize every word, but I like to leave it as normal. And now you get to have a bit of a think about the sizing. Now, I'm going to go with 18 pixel, and then on the mobile, I want it to be 16 pixel. So what I'm going to do is go over to my clamp calculator over here. I'm going to change this to be, I mean, look, I don't know, I can do it in any one of these lines because it's following through the 350 and the 1100. So I'm going to say the maximum is 18, copy the formula, paste it in, get rid of the bits at the end and everything that is before clamp like that. And now we have 18. And what will happen is when you shrink down, when you eventually get to the mobile, that will go down to be 16. So again, it responsively shrinks it down for us. That is now applicable to that particular class. Brilliant. But now I'm looking at the image and I'm going, that's a bit too big. We need to make it smaller, but don't rush yet. Have you noticed we haven't got a call to action here? You don't have to have a call to action on your hero banner all the time. You can get away with it being in the next section if you want, or maybe down here, or even further down. You don't have to force it upon people all the time. So let's go and hit the plus sign, and while we're in the block, let's go and add in a button, like that. We now have a button. Let's go and stylize that. The first thing I'm going to do is increase the spacing between the items in there. Go to content, scroll to row gap, and let's go and put in 2 REM like that. That's pretty okay. I mean, I might want to increase it and go with 3 REM maybe, so we have a little bit more spacing. Now let's go to the button. I'm going to create a class. We're going to call it button C2A. We are going to do a hover effect because I mentioned that earlier, and we are going to do that. But first, let's sort out the styling here. Let's go and hit create. I'm going to remove any styling that we currently have applied at the moment for primary. By the way, if in your theme style you had gone and set a particular color like primary or secondary, it can help you out. I am not feeling like I need to follow that route or method of doing it, so I like to just get rid of any predetermined styles. I'm going to link this eventually off to, say, a contact page or another page, but we'll do that when the pages are built, so we will come back to revisit this. I could go in and add in an icon as well, or for simplicity, I could just put in a chevron like that as well. It's up to you. If you want to drop in an icon, click this, go and pick maybe ion icons, a row, something like that, and you might go, yeah, let's go and pop something in like that. You can see it down here. That's if you want to go with that. I'm actually going to say no, I'm not actually bothered about an icon. I'm now going to go over to my style, and this is what is going to be carried over for future classes. Let's go and set our font like that to be that color. I'm going to use the same formula I actually had over here. So I'm going to go to my rich text. I'm going to copy that formula over, go to my button and dump it in. As long as this is yellow, it will always keep applying it to the class, okay? I'm going to make the weight of this be quite weighty. I'm going to go to my background. I'm going to give it the yellow color, which is this one here. And I'm now just going to double check how that looks on preview. That's looking okay, but do you notice we've got no effect when we hover? Let's sort that out. We're then going to click on state, and then over here, I'm going to pick hover. We are still in the button, right? Nothing has changed. We're still in the button. We're going to go to the background color, and I'm now going to go for this gray color. We're going to go to our typography, and I'm going to change it to be white, like that. Save. And then I'm just going to hit this as well to make sure I'm out of it. Let me now just go and add in another button into the block, okay, like this. Okay, so now there's another button. You go to this button, nothing happens. You go here and you get a change of color. Let's go back in, go to our new button, and now we're going to go and pick the button CTA. And look, it will now change, just like the other one. Let's remove that button. That is the beauty of the class system. And when we look at the height of this, we can see it's kind of bigger than like the bottom of that button. I could go to this block and I hit center on align self. It's now moved down a bit. Or I could go to the block image over here and say, you know what? Let's just change the height. So let's go to the layout. Let's go with a 340 pixel or something like that. Let's go and add in another section. So I've just minimized or collapsed all of my sections. So I'm going to click on the final section and then hit the plus sign and add in a new section, and it will go to the bottom. By the way, if you clicked over here and you hit add new section, it will actually pop it over there. And then you got to drag it down. So we have a brand new section and we have a container. I'm just going to go in here and look, again, this is where you could just repeat what you've already done. So I'm going to copy the style from section 2 and right click and paste style over the new one. So when we go over to the third section and we go to style, you'll notice 10 REM 2 and 2. It's not a bad idea to get into the habit of renaming. So I'm going to call this one a hero. So we're going to go banner and we have a container. This container is going to be a width of about, I think, 800, because we're going to add in some wording into here. Now what I'm going to do is go to my banner very first, go over to my background, and I'm going to give this that dark color like that. I'm then going to go to my container, and into here I'm going to drop in some text. I could, if I want, copy and paste previously. So I could just go over to any one of these items over here and I might say, you know what? Why don't we just take the text that we had over here? And I could just copy this and I could paste it into container that I have here. So there's our rich text, which we cannot read at the moment. Remember, it's applying the text body, which I don't mind, but I actually don't want to do that. So I've eliminated that class. We're going to create a new class system. I'm going to call it text hyphen and I'm going to call it banner, and we're going to hit create. We go to our typography. I go and set it to be white. We go to our sizing. I'm going to go with 3 REM and then 2.5 REM because I want it to be not too small for the banner. We pick this code up. I'm going to change the text that we currently have in here, it doesn't need to be that long. Please centralize it over here. Go to my style tab, go to my layout, and I'm going to give this some padding of about 5 REM and 5 REM like that. And while I'm here, I also should do the line height as well. So we have the 3, and then we'll go with 3.5 like that. We copy that code over, stick it in the line height, and on reflection, the 800 is too big, so I'm going to change that to be a 700, and that's looking okay. I do, though, just want to do one more thing to the typography, and that is make sure the family is definitely on railway, but I want to set the weight to be about 300. So it's not like pure on bold. You can read it and yeah, that's okay. Now, before we continue, because we've done quite a few things, it's a good idea to just kind of reflect and check how do things look on the mobile. So here we have our original section or hero one. We've got the image. Luckily, though, she was kind of placed very centrally on. If, however, when we go over here and I just click on container, she was like way off. And if you then go into background image, you can add in a different image if you want. So you could add in a copy of this image into your media library and then crop it to have it positioned so that the person of interest is in the middle, the left or the right of maybe a 500 pixel width image. You could do that. You could also, you could also position it. But if it looks okay, that is fine. I mean, here we do still have the 10 REM. Go to the desktop, get rid of the 10, right? Go to your calculator, pop in a 10 like that, pop in a 5 over there, copy the code. And again, these are things that you will get used to doing, right? And it changes the way you start building. Like right now, please put in the comments how you're feeling right now when you're watching this. Is this suddenly making you go, well, what do you know? I didn't know about that, right? Let's go over to the banner one. We get rid of that 10 and we pop that formula in at the moment. So when you now go to any one of these, as you shrink down in width, the size will now start to correspond. See that over there? And then you eventually get to there. I'm going to go here and I'm going to duplicate our intro section and I'm going to just hit the duplicate button. I'm then going to pick it up and drop it below like that. So we have our hero, intro banner, and then we have another intro over here. This is how quick and easy it is, right? Once you've built it really well. We pick up container number 2 and I'm just going to pop it of container number 1 like that. I'm going to leave this button in and all I'm going to do is go to the second block, go to the style, go to the background, and I'm going to change the image, and we might as well just bring through one of these website images like, I don't know, let's just go for this one here. Now, how about we define some of our services? Again, we're going to do this in a really quick and easy way, okay? I'm just going to duplicate this intro bit. I'm going to rename it to be services like this. I'm then going to get rid of one of my blocks, which will be that one. So we get rid of the image. We now have a block in here that has a button and text. Let's get rid of the button. We'll leave the text in for now, but I'm also going to add in to the block a heading like that. I'm going to move the heading to be above the text like this. I'm going to change the content of this and just call it service 1. I'm going to give it a class name, heading services. And what we're going to go with is rather than 18 and 16, I'm going to go with an 18 and a 20 like that. Let's just change. Sometimes you just have to make sure it doesn't swap the numbers back. Go and copy that code. I'm then going to go to the layout for my heading. I'm going to say at the bottom of my heading over here, give me 5 pixel margin at the bottom. And this will make sense in a moment. Why am I doing this to the heading? Then I'm going to go over to border and I'm saying, give me a border of about 3, maybe 3 should be okay. 3 pixels at the bottom. Make sure it is a solid, and now you can see the line appear. In fact, I think 3 pixels is too little. We'll go with a 5, and then give me that yellow color over there. So if I now just hit the chevrons here, you can basically see what it's doing there. We're getting a bit of a color there. Inside the block, above the heading, I'm going to drop in a image, and the image is just there, so I'm going to pop it in above. We're going to click the image. We're going to go to content. We are then going to pick one of these. I'm going to go to the style for that. I'm going to go to the layout, 150. While I'm still on the image, I'm going to scroll down in the layout tab until I get to the flex align cell. This is now going to align it within the block because I want my text to be on the left, but I want my image to be in the center like that. Do I want to make my heading be in the center as well? I might change this in a moment. I'll double check. But the idea is we're going to have like services. Now, the rich text is way too beefy, so let's just get rid of a lot of the text we have here. I am going to go into my block though, because at the moment my block is very up against itself. I'm going to say give me 3 REM. Like that, and I'm going to say link it all the way around. So all the way around we get 30 pixels. Go to my style and align that to also be in the center like that, and then I'll duplicate it again like this. The text inside of here has already got clamp responsiveness applied because we're using the text body. You might want to make it smaller. You might feel like, no, we don't want it to be that big. So if we're going to do something different, we might as well do it now. So here's where we're going to change it on the fly. Okay, and please don't get annoyed by this because you're going to go, what? You're now going to remove again? No, we're going to do it on the fly. Let's get rid of this class system completely. You might as well just pop in a 16 like that, because it will be 16 on the mobile as well. I'm going to copy the style of that, and I'm going to paste the style there and paste the style. The blocks are applying a free REM because it's followed through what we had here. So if I get rid of that, it's going to be way too close. If I go with 1.5 REM, I think 1.5 REM is probably better. So let me just copy the style, paste the style, and again paste the style over there. That is actually looking better now. We're now going to copy our hero and have a duplicated hero banner lower down, but we're going to flip the box from left to right. Let's go and duplicate this hero, pick it up and drop it to the bottom down here. We will then go inside of it. We don't need to change anything else. Go to the container, go to style, go to the background, swap the image out to be this image over here. I'm going to ensure that this is now a top left, I think, because we want to make sure I get her. I want to keep her on the mobile, but I'd rather have her in as well because she's the main person of interest. We go to our container, go to our content, and in terms of align cross axes, we go to our block, we go to style, we go to our image, and I'm going to put this image in instead like that. Stay ahead of the game, get your business online. I could go to the style of this, typography, and I could left align it like that. And we don't have to worry too much because this has got all the responsiveness built in. The thing you got to remember though is that this hero does not have the layout applied above. So if you remember, all of our other sections except the hero has this clamp value applied where it goes to 5 when you get to the mobile. So let's pick that up. Go to our hero and just stick that in. In fact, our hero, there you go, there's 5 REM. I knew there was something wrong there. So there we got our kind of the right spacing that we want to have. And I know there's a bit of padding in that container or section, but you know what? It deserves it because you're advertising some services. You want to drop in a button, you can do, right? Because now you're working with blocks, by the way, here. You can pop in whatever you want. The last thing we're going to add, though, is another section right at the bottom. The footer we're not going to do until we've done some other pages, and then I will come back to the footer template. But for now, we're just getting the home page done. What we're going to do is go to our services, duplicate it, pick it up and move it down below the hero, the second hero. Go in and get rid of all of these. I'm going to drop in a heading. I'm also going to drop in a nestable slider because I'm going to use like the slide to do a testimonial carousel. So I'm going to drop that in as well. Now, don't worry at the moment with the layout, okay? We go to container, we go to content, and I'm going to say make this be a columnar approach like that. Again, seriously, don't worry about the layout or how things look. I'm going to pick this heading up, copy the style, go over here and hit paste style like that. And look, it has brought over the heading services. So you might want to go, yeah, but it's not services, is it? Does that even say services? Yeah, I did. I thought I spelt that wrong then. But I'm just going to do that. I'm going to change this to be reviews. I'm going to go to my container and I'm going to give this a background color. So I'm going to go over here to the style tab. I'm now going to pick from one of my colors, something like that. The slide does have a background color. Don't worry about that because when you go into the slider nestable, when you go to content, it's got slide 1, slide 2, slide 3. For now, I'm just going to get rid of whatever they've given us here. In fact, I could do it down here. Let me just delete it like that. So when I click into the slider nestable, if you go to the style, it already has a background color. I'm going to get rid of that color, number 1. I'm going to go to my content. I'm going to go to options. And over here, it says 50 VH. I'm going to change that to be 35 VH. Now, VH is your viewport height. So 100 VH is 100%, 50 VH is 50% of your screen. I'm going to go with 35, so 35%. I'm going to click into the slide. I'm actually going to get rid of that and get rid of the button. I'm going to go over here where we have text. I'm going to copy that, go over to my slide and actually paste into there. So now we have our text. I shouldn't have deleted the heading I had before. I actually wanted that. Let me just pop it back in over here now. This heading, again, I'm actually not going to set any responsiveness. I'm just going to set this to be 14. Make it be the black color like that. I am going to make the weight of it be about, no, 500's way too low. We'll go with a 600 like that. So this will be the name of the person. So we'll just go with Imran Steek like that. Go with 3 REM and just go all the way around like that. I'm going to say align it to the top. So because there's a danger that if you add different size testimonials, they're all going to start looking like this, and you want them all to start at the top. So it doesn't matter too much how big they are. And I'm going to duplicate my slides inside of here. So we've got slide 1, slide 1, slide 1 at the moment. Don't worry about the names. Click back into your slider nestable. Go to your options, and down here it will say items to show. We're going to put it as a 3. I'm just going to first set this to actually be 50 VH, so it actually does now have a bit of breathing space. I think 50 VH is way too big as well. 45 is a little bit better there. If I type in 2 REM into the row gap for the slide 1, remember this is a box in a way. So slide 1, I'm now putting in a row gap just to pull it down a bit there. I'm just going to copy that style and paste over the other ones. You know, if you have a class system, it's a little bit quicker, right? Now, you will have noticed they have not changed, even though I pasted over the class system. Just hit save and go and reload your canvas. This is quite common with the sliders, I have found. You do it and it doesn't look right, and you go, but why is it not changed? Just go and reload the canvas. If I now go over here, I'm actually just going to duplicate this again, so we have more items like that. Hit save, hit refresh again, or reload the page. Go back to your slider nestable, and now just make sure that you're okay with the look of it. If you want to change the way the pagination dots look and the colors, you can go and do that. And then when you get to the mobile, you don't want to be showing 3. So just go back into where you've got your options. Oh yeah, by the way, this is not set to autoplay. Sorry, let me just do that. Go back to desktop. Set this to be autoplay. Do you want to pause on hover? You know, it's up to you if there's going to be a button or a reason for them to pause. But if we now just click the mobile one and change this to be items to show is 1. So now that's going to look better. Before it was showing all 3 and cramping up. And you can see what it's doing there. It's just now moving quite nicely. I mean, you might want to adjust the height of it. But we have, in simplicity, a page. I mean, that is quite white, I have to be honest. Maybe a bit of another background color there would actually work a little bit better. I mean, but then again, it is quite clean. Now, we've got a website which works really, really well if you're looking at it on a mobile. We've applied REM and some clamping where we needed to make it work for us in different breakpoints. And we've tried to be as efficient as possible with the way I like to work, which is get the perfect section container, duplicate, and use the class system to make your life so much easier. What we're going to do next, though, is go and create an about and a contact page, and then a few other more pages. Then we'll add them to the menu, revisit the header template and the menu that you have there with the nav menu, not the nestable one, the new one, but the standard nav menu. And then we'll go do the footer template. I hate footers. I despise them. But we've got to do the footer template as well. So there's a bit more to do. And hey, if you're liking, please smash the like button. Please share the video. Please get in touch. Put your comments below. I would love to know how you're finding this. And is this useful and helpful to you with building a website with Bricks Builder? One of the ways I like to create extra pages is to either duplicate something that's been signed off or agreed with the client or we're very happy with, or I'll create a new page and just copy elements over, or sections or containers. Now, if we go over to our home page, I've changed the hero banner image. I've also changed the image we had there. I felt like the darker image at the top there worked a little bit better in balancing off the colors. And if we scroll down here, I've changed this now to go from a yellow border to a black because I felt the yellow wasn't really clear. As you're building, everything looks perfect. And then when you look at it like an hour or two later on, you kind of go, yeah, I'm not too sure about that. Anyway, we're going to reuse this section and we are going to totally modify it. The first thing we're going to do is create an about page. So I'm going to click add new, call it about. You can hit publish if you want. I mean, you can do this later on. We can do it now. And then I'm going to hit edit with bricks and go to my into section. I'm going to go to copy, go over to my new about page, hit the plus sign, and then I'm going to paste into there. As soon as you paste, that section has now gone into a section and containers. Seriously, don't worry about it. Just pick it up and move it to be outside like that. It's in its own section, and now I will get rid of it. You might kind of go, why did you do that? Let me show you. If you try and paste, you just start to get your normal Mac, Windows, or whatever as your browser tab appearing, which is really annoying, but I actually want the section as it is. Great. So we have a section. It's already pulling through a lot of our styling. So look, you can see here, we've got the clamp going on. I know that the top of this is always going to be something like 5 REM, always, regardless of whether you're on the mobile or the desktops. Look, when we go over here, there's always going to be 50 pixel 5 REM. So we'll leave it at that. We have a container and we have 2 blocks. I am going to be using blocks here, but I'm going to get rid of the image one first. So this is what we have now. I want a header to be above the rich text. And there's 2 ways I could do this. The first way is that I could go over here, I could copy this like that, go over to my about page and just go and hit paste. And the heading is here, so let's pick it up and pop it at the top. Then I could go in and stylize it. I could make sure I haven't activated the hero heading, because if I do, it will affect anything I've got here as well on the home page. And then I could modify to my heart's content. Or I could completely kill off this heading that I've just brought over, go and drop in a brand new one into the block, position it to where I want, then go over and now pick the heading hero. So we're almost kind of back to where we were before, but those are the multiple ways that you can do it. Instead, I'm actually going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of the class I applied and I'm going to give it a new one. And this is called heading page. So whenever I have the about or contact, this is the style I'm going to use. Let's hit create over there. I'm going to set this to be a H1 tag. Let's go over to typography. We're going to go for our dark font over here. I'm going to pick a relative thin font like that, just a 300. If we go back over to our home and where we had our heading here and go to style for the heading hero, I could, if I want, by activating it, now have the full clamp, which was going from 3.5 to 2.5. And don't forget, we had the line height as well. So if I go here and now apply that in, you can see the style of it, and we might as well go and get the line height as well. You're just reusing elements. So I will now hit save. So there we go. We got our heading hero, and then we got our headings for our page. And remember, look, you can, if you want, apply more than one. Look, what if I go and apply button CTA as well? Now we've got the background of the button and the hover effect applied as well. I don't want that. Let's get rid of it. Let's just leave the heading page. Now I've just realized I've actually put my heading in the wrong place. I don't want it there. I want it to be outside of this block. So I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to move it to be above the block. And because the direction is a row, they are side by side. Now I want the header to be on its own line and I want the block to be below. But I am going to show you a potential problem. If I duplicate, so I now have 2 blocks, if I turn this into a column approach like that, this is what I get. In fact, let me just make this easier to see. Let me get rid of this button over here and let me get rid of the button there as well. So now I've got my 2 blocks underneath, but I want these 2 blocks to be side by side. So how do you get almost like a columnar approach with the header and the first block, but then the second block sits side by side? What you want to do is go for the row, so everything is side by side. You want to ensure that the flex wrap is set to wrap. Now when you do that, items that are greater than 100%, or if they total more than 100 when they're side by side, they wrap onto the next row. Now I don't know if it will work here unless I set the width, but let's just test it out. If I do row, now we've got the header is occupying its own row, and then we got block 1 and block 2. We are still on the row. All we've done is enable the flex wrap. So how do I get these 2 to be side by side? Really easy. The first thing I'm going to do though is go to my heading and ensure that this is a full 100%. The reason why is that I do not want to leave any space for anything to pop up here. So I go to style. I will go to the layout, and where we have the width, I will type 100%. Look at the blue bar now, outline. Let me get rid of it. It was only occupying that bit. So if there was another item, in fact, I'll show you here. Let's just duplicate this. Look, we've got 2 headers now, right? Because they're very small. Let's make the first header have 100% in width. It now occupies its own line. This one is still small enough, and if I was to duplicate it, you'd have another one side by side. So when the items are equal to 100%, or they don't go over it, they'll keep sitting side by side. Look, if I duplicate, we'll get another one. If I duplicate again, it will go to the next row. Because look at the width of that. There's no way that 4th one could have fit there. Does that make sense? Let's just get rid of all of those. Now we go to the block. I'm going to set this to be 50%, like that. And I'm going to do the same for the second block. But they're still sat underneath one another. And you're going to go 50 plus 50 is 100. Why is that? Do you remember that we used this section and we actually added in a column gap? So let's go back over here to our container, and there it is, 5 REM. Let me get rid of it. And now I have my two items side by side. I'm going to go to my container that contains everything, go to my row gap, 3 REM like that. Remember, you can put 30 pixels in if you want. It is not the end of the world if you use pixels, okay? Everyone, get over it, all right? REM, pixel, whatever. I know you're going to go on and on about REM, EM, BEM, and every other EM out there. If you watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3, understand Rocket Raccoon's story,
let it go.
These blocks are not going to be 50-50. They're actually going to be about 70-30 or something like that. I'm going to get rid of the text that we have over here. And in the first one, we're going to leave the text. And I'm now going to make this box be a 70% in width. And the second block is going to be a 30%. Just make sure there's no layouts or any like spacing or padding so I know what I'm working with. Into this block, I'm going to add in a background image. And we're going to go for this one here that is currently set as a 500 by 599. You should know by now that the height of it is not looking right. I won't do the height just yet. First, let me get my text that I'm going to have in here. So we've got our text in. And remember, we've already applied the text body. We don't need to click this again. It's already bringing through the clamp and the sizing, which was going from 18 pixel or 1.8 REM to 1.6 REM for the mobile. And I'm going to say just make this be a height of about 400 pixels like that. And that's looking pretty okay right now. Now what I'm going to do is duplicate these items and just swap them around and have them in a slightly different sizing as well. Call that one text block and we'll call this one image block like that. Then I'm going to duplicate that text one. And I'm going to duplicate the image as well. And then I'm going to rearrange them so the duplicated text will go right to the bottom down here. Now let me go to this text block where we had 5 REM on the right. So let's swap it over to be 5 REM on the left. So we're going to go with the 60% there, and the text block here is going to be a 40%. We've got way too much text there. By the way, this is all fake text. Always work your images and your content to the text. A bit of advice I gave someone recently where they said, how big does my image need to be? And I went, well, how big is it in relation to the text it coincides with? So they had image and they had text. And I was like, if your text is like that, don't make your image too big, or it starts to look like you got too much white space unless you fill it with something else. If your text is like that, you don't want your image to be too small either. Otherwise, it kind of looks like you got the wrong thumbnail image. So have a think about what you're doing there. Now, this particular image block, I'm just going to go and swap out the image. I'm going to go here. I'm going to drop the size out for a moment. And I'm just going to go with something like that. About 220 pixel. Ah, there you go. That wasn't bad. It's not too bad, actually. I think that breathes okay. Let's just double check how it looks on the mobile. Really, really important. I'm just going to say that when you get to the mobile, it's 100%. We'll do the same over here for the image. We'll go to the desktop. I added in 5 REM. When we get to the mobile, I kind of don't want that to be there. So this is where you now have to have a think about, like, at what point does the breakpoint completely disappear? So on the tablet, I don't mind it being there. On the horizontal, it's okay. But on the mobile, which is currently set to a 477, I don't want that to exist. So I need to change this value to become 0 when you hit the 500 threshold. So I'm going to change this value to be a 500. We'll leave that as a 1100. And I'm going to change this to be an REM over here. And we'll do the same here for REM. And I'm going to say 5. And when you get to a 500 pixel width, I want it to be 0. Paste it in, get rid of what you don't need. And now when we get to the mobile, there is nothing there because it's now eliminated it when you get to that point. But when you're at a bigger size, there will be some there, but it starts to decrease a little bit. I'll then copy that code, go to the other text block and replace the 5 REM with the calculation. Again, this is a way of helping yourself out responsibly without having to do things per breakpoint. Sometimes you do have to do it. when you are messing a little bit with the layout, but it can help you out a lot. Okay, so we've got that going in. We've got our image. I just want to change this image as well to be 100%, and we'll do the same for the text as well, which will be 100%. Now, I don't want my image to actually be below that text. So how do I get that to be rearranged in order? Now, if we look at our container, I have 5 items in there: header, text, image, image, text. I don't mind the image here being before this text. In fact, I've got a bit of a gap here. I just want to get rid of that, pop that in as a 0. That's brought it over from when we copied over the block. Very easy to sort out. I want this text and image to be swapped over, and I want the heading to still be the very first item. So if I go over to my heading and I go to positioning, I actually have an item over here called order. I'm just going to pop in a 1, and the heading is now moved to the bottom, which may throw you a little bit because you're probably thinking, why is it gone there? That's because any item that is not set always goes above items that are set. But when you go to the text block and you scroll down in the layout tab and you get to positioning, the order is not there. And some people then resort to sticking in a bit of CSS into every single item to try and order it. It's a weird one, but if you go to the content tab for the blocks, there is the order. So the header is not a block, it's an element. So you got to go to the style. So if it was a button, you go to the style. If it was a divider, you go to the style. Where it's like a div, a container, or a block, you've got to go to the content tab. So I'm going to make this be number 2. And you can now see the text has gone there. In actual fact, I want it to be a number 3. It is still going to go underneath because we haven't set the other items. Now I go to the image and I'm going to make that be a number 2. Then I'm going to go to the next image, which we know will be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the final text will be a number 5. So if I view this on a desktop, the order is still as it should be. When we go to the mobile, I now have title, image, text, image, and text. So I've rearranged the order, but it's still as it was here by using the content tab for the block. That is the about page done. Now let's go on to the contact. Go to pages, click add new, type contact, edit with bricks. And then I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to copy this entire section like that. And remember, I'm just going to hit plus here, go and paste it. Get rid of the old one, and it now sits perfectly fine. Change my heading. It's already got the styling for the heading page brought over. I'm not going to have an image block. We'll get rid of that. I won't have... In fact, I can get rid of all of that. So why did I bring it over? Well, because it's built, and I just replicate. I could save this as a template and bring it over. If you want to use templates, go for it. I'd like to keep my templates as lean and mean as possible. Because when you start to work with WooCommerce shops or you have multiple blog layouts for different categories, it can get really, really messy and it's easy to get confused with what you're doing. So I like to keep things lean and mean. I'm going to make this block be 50% and then I'm going to duplicate it. So we've got 2 side by side. The very first one, I'm going to get rid of the rich text. And this is where I'm going to bring through our form. We're going to pick it up and we're going to drop that in over there. I'm going to go to my text block and I'm going to align it to sit at the top in line. This text block already has the clamp. Again, I'm going to go on and on about this, okay? You do it once and you make it perfect to work. Why go through the effort of doing it again? Just bring it over and now you've got that functionality, because when we get to the mobile, I actually want this to become 100% like what you see now. And the gap there is 0. We've gone from 5 REM to 0. We shrunk it down, remember? Okay, let's just very quickly style this form. We can add extra fields into here. So we'll go and add one in for phone number. We can modify the width. So if I was to put 50%, you can see what it does there. You can decide if the field is required or not. And of course, you can rearrange items as well like that. If we go to message, to be about 200 like that. If you feel like they're too close, you can go and type in another value and it'll space them out better. I think the 20 actually is okay. You could change the alignment of your button. I think it's okay on the left like that. Remember that that's the kind of look I've gone with my button. We are going to stylize this, by the way. I'm going to get rid of the style that we have applied there. I'm actually going to make the width be about 30%, so it's a bit wider than what it was. Go and grab a button like that. Just drop it anywhere. Style that button to be your button style, so button CTA. go into it, which is the style over here, go to typography, and then just grab the code that you had there. The formula into the typography. Make sure we've got the right color on as well, which is that one. Now remember, nothing's happening when we hover, so we've got to make sure we address that. Just scroll down and make sure the weight is 700 as well. Then I'm going to click the state, click hover, go back to my submit button, click the typography, change the font to be a white. And then I'm going to go over to where we have the background. Now, you could, again, create a class for this. So if you were going to have multiple forms elsewhere on the website, it'd be a good idea to do that. But I'm just going to go to my background and I'm going to pick that color. Click the little flag arrow that we had over there in the top. So it's now back in the normal state. I hadn't put the yellow in, so let me just finish that off with the submit button, put the background to be yellow. So now we've basically kind of replicated that. The padding's not exactly the same, but you could go in and modify that. You can also click here and you have other options like, do you want it to send the details to a MailChimp? Do you want it to redirect to another page as well? And decide where is this going to go and what is the subject. So you might want to say contact form request from your website name or the particular page where the form was. Staying on the content tab, let's just make this a little bit clearer. Go to our fields. There was the option over there for placeholder. In fact, if you want to show what's required, you can use this asterisk as well. You can just see it there. I'm not too bothered about that for this tutorial. Let's go to the typography. I'm going to make my text be darker like that. For the font size, I'm going to drop in our formula. Remember, it's all responsive. And that's kind of basically it. I mean, that's literally it. Let's just get rid of this button that we added in so it doesn't mess things up. Dropped in a little bit of text into there. I'm just going to go over to my block and I'm going to say move that to the top. So look, you know, I'm just repositioning items there. Very easy to do. And remember, if you're not in here and you're messing around in the container and it doesn't work, just think systematically, undo anything that doesn't do what or doesn't change anything. Go to the block, and this is where you can start to do your alignment, like basically what I'm doing over here now. You know, I could do it to the bottom, but we want it to be to the top. I'm going to drop in a list over here. By the way, sometimes when you drag things over, it might start to go like a bit funny. So if you ever have that, just drop it in over here on your structure, which is what it's there for. I'm going to go over to my list, go over to my items. I'm going to change item 1 to be, popped in an email there, and I'm going to change this to be an external URL. And I'm going to type in mail to colon and pop that email address. It will open up an email. So I know that's working right. Let's just go back over here to the list. We're not going to add in an icon. Open a new tab. Well, it's an email, so it's kind of irrelevant. Over here on the second item, I'm going to drop in a number. Again, I'm going to go for an external URL and I'm just going to type in tell, colon, pop in the number again and just save that. Now, at the moment, I have got lots of other items here. We are going to eliminate those in a moment. So for each of my items, if you scroll down here, you see it says $10.25. I'm going to get rid of those values. Scroll down until I get to separator. I don't like those lines at all. This is not a bad widget. The list one, if you want to show prices for services or anything like that. But here, I really don't like it. You got to go to separator. If you click disable, it will disappear. Or you could have gone over here and said, make it be none or make it be hidden or make it be dashed. Now we'll go and modify the size of the text. Now you could, if you want, go and pick up the clamp formula from the text here or even from the form. Or you just go to the list and over here we go text body. And it has applied it. That's how brilliant it is, because we did not apply any particular margins or paddings, so we can get away with this totally fine. I also want to space these out a little bit. I feel like they're a little bit too cramped. Now, this is where you, again, have to be careful. I'm going to hit the X there, so I can do what I want, but it's not going to add any extra kind of like features or settings to the text body. Over here, we have list item. And I'm going to say from the bottom, there we go, 1 REM is better. Yeah, that's much better. So now we have a bit of text. We've got some links over here. You could have added in icons. Don't get me wrong. You could have done, but I wasn't crazy about that. The last thing I'm going to add to this page are some social icons. So I've typed in icon and we now have an icon list. I'm just going to click it and I'm now going to reposition it to be above the list. I'm going to click the icon list. I'm going to leave it as Twitter, Facebook, and Insta. You could, if you want, go and add in another one. So you might want to go, we are going to go for LinkedIn. You click the icon and you would basically find LinkedIn over here. And then we can also go and change the background color as well. We can decide on the direction of how we're going to lay it out, and we can decide if we're going to have any spacing. So I'm just going to pop in 1 REM like that, and you can see what's happening. So let's go and style it. Now, one thing you do have to bear in mind though, that for each one of these, you do have a color, you do have an icon, you do have the label, but you also have the link. So what you would do is you'd go here, hit external URL, and then you'd pop in the URL for where this is going. I'm going to go to each of my items, and I am going to clear the color away. Now when I go to the style tab and I go to background over here, I'm now going to give them a background color. So we could go for a yellow like that, and you can see what's happened. Then I'm going to go to typography, and I'm going to change that color to be dark. Go over to your content, go here and get rid of the label. But what if you don't want to have like squares? What if you want them to be more circular in appearance? Okay, we can do that as well. We go to style, we go to border, we click on border, and down here we have radius. I'm just going to go in 50. First I'll link it, by the way, like that. And I'm going to type in 50, made a circular. I would say though, for this particular website, because everything is kind of like very geometric right angles, I wouldn't do that. I would actually leave it as a square design. So let me just go back in over to borders. Let's just do that. I think that looks a little bit better. And I would even go as far as saying that 1 REM is not enough. And I think we should go with 1.5 like that. It's very simple. It's very slim. There's not a lot going on there. There's not any images on there, but sometimes that's all you need. Go to the mobile. I actually want to rearrange items. I want all of this text and the social sharing icons to be above the form, but I want the header to obviously be in the header. We go to the heading. We go to style. Remember, we just brought over what we'd already done. We scroll down until we get to positioning, order number 1. Great. We go to the text block. This will probably say number 3. This will also say number 3. And you're probably thinking, why? Well, it's because it's duplicated. So this text block has also got 3. Now I'm going to hit number 2. And lo and behold, you can see what it's done. We now have our header. We got some details, and then we've got our form with the button below. That's pretty simple. Let's just go and hit save. Now there are 3 more pages I want to add, because eventually they're all going to be like listed on the footer, and that is the privacy policy, the cookies policy, and I'm even going to add in an accessibility statement as well. If you're thinking very carefully about your website in terms of styling and sizing, and you're making sure you've got hover effects on your button and that you can still tab through some of the buttons, etc. and items, it's really good to show people that you are thinking about them. So let's go to pages, hit add new, and we're going to add our first one, which is privacy policy. Publish, edit with bricks. I'm going to pick up my entire container there, or section, paste it in, move it out. Get rid of the old one. I mean, look, it doesn't take that long to do, okay? It really doesn't. I'm going to get rid of this text block because I don't want it. We've got this other block here. I'm going to get rid of the 50% like that so it stretches all the way across now. I'm going to get rid of the list. I'm going to get rid of the icon list, and we're going to leave that. Change the title, obviously. This is just some privacy policy text I've got that you can get hold of from our sharing our stash mastery module if you jump over to our website. Anyway, that's done. Double check that looks okay. Add a new one. This one we're going to call cookies policy. Edit with bricks. I mean, it starts to become quicker and easier than once you've started building things out, and then you just reuse what you've got. Let's just move that out. Get rid of this one over here. Dump your text in, make sure it looks okay on the mobile. Yes, it is. I mean, look, if there's few extra returns here and there, just get rid of them. Go to pages and add the last one, which is accessibility statement. This statement here, I always do double check it. So I will remove from here any items like, has this got a high contrast facility or feature? You know, one of those ones where you click it and it suddenly goes all black and yellow or something like that. Or you can hit the increase the font size, which you can normally do on your browser, but other than it being built into the browser, it's not part of our website, so it does depend on the browser you go for. But anyway, that looks okay. Double check how it looks on the mobile. Again, looks pretty fine. Go and hit save. So we've now got 6 pages built. I am now going to, well, just hit view all so you can see them all. We go to about and we go to content, and I'm going to add those. I'm not going to add the policies because they sit in the footer. This is the point where we do now mess around with our menu. So let's just go over to our home page and we can now see the wording has come over. Now we have not applied any styling to this, which is what we're going to do now. Let's go and hit edit with header. Let's go to our nav menu. I'm going to go over here now and I'm going to pick text body, and that will now bring over the text body. I can, if I want, create a completely different one for the menu, and that's not a bad idea, but for now, I'm just going to bring over the text body for the styling that we have over there. I'm then going to go over to my content, click top level menu, and now I get to mess around a little bit. So at the moment, we have 30 pixels gap over there. If I change that to be 100, you can see what it's doing. I think the 30 is pretty reasonable. I could make it vertical, which is totally pointless for what we're doing here. We'll leave it as horizontal. I don't really need to start messing around with this yet. So instead, we're going to go to the mobile menu, and this is what appears. It slid in. Did you see that? And it came in from the left. I actually want it to come in from the right. So let me now just go back to the top level. If when you are in the mobile and you have the toggle, this is what you'll see. It slides in from the right. I quite like that. Do you want to have a fade-in approach? No. Some people have had an issue with this, and I kind of say to them, just go and check your mobile menu settings. Do you want it to be at the top, which it is, or do you want it to be in the middle? I quite like having it near the top. Want to change the background color? So we might want to go with, well, we can pop in an image as well, by the way. It doesn't have to be a color. You could pop in, say, a black color like that, and you could go over and say, let's make it be a little bit more transparent, but you could also do the same with an image as well. I'm going to get rid of all of that. I quite like the color it's currently. Actually, no, we won't do that. We'll use our color, because otherwise, what's the point of me doing this entire tutorial? So there we go. We go with our dark color there. Now, if you scroll down, eventually you're going to get to the hamburger toggle. Now, if I just go and view this on a mobile, you can see there's a close symbol there. You can just about see it. It's very dark on the screen. Let me just change the close one to be a white like that. It's quite small. I mean, you could make it bigger if you want, depending on how big you actually want it. So I'm going to go over here to my toggle width, and I'm going to say 5 REM. I mean, that's probably way too big. What am I doing? 5 REM. We'll go with a 3 REM like that. And you can, if you want, hide the close, which I really don't think you should do that. You can also modify the positioning of this. If you feel like it's too close to the edge, you might go, okay, give me 5 REM from the side. I think it's okay. Leave it as it is. One thing I didn't mention though was the width of this. If we just scroll up, you'll see 300 pixel. If you were to go with, say, 100, you can see what it does. I prefer to work in percentage when it comes to this because you can't fully predict the size. Now, if you're going to be very prescriptive with the items in here, and you're using the new Bricks mega menu or the nav nestable widget, then you can be very prescriptive of the size of this. I'm actually just going to go for 85% like that. So it goes all the way across. So if we have any long headers or titles, we've got a bit of breathing space away from the button. So if I go and click top level menu, you'll now get to see how does it look when it's kind of closed up. And that is now our current mobile menu touched. Now we're going to move on to the item I despise the most, the dreaded footer.
Why do we have footers on websites?
Yeah, I know why we have footers. You don't have to explain or all shout at me, but we're now going to have to go and address it and build it. So we're going to create a footer template, similar to what we did with the header template, and we're just going to drop in quite a few items in there, mainly like menu, the policies, social sharing icons, and we're just going to rip them off other pages that we've already built. So let's go and create the footer template. Go to bricks, then go to templates, click add new, give it a title, select footer from the template type. You can go and hit publish at this point if you want, and then go and hit edit with bricks. Now you will see the header appear, but the footer will sit down here. Now I'm just going to go and hit the plus section bit, so we have a container. And into here, I'm going to drop in 3 blocks like that. I'm going to go to my container, go to my content and set them to be rows at the bottom like this. Sometimes I don't like it how low it is and I prefer to work up here. So what I'm going to do is go to my section, give it about 500 just so everything is up here, and then I will get rid of that later on. What I will do though is put some top margin in, and I'm going to go over to my intro from the homepage, go to style, go to layout, and get this clamp formula because it's the one where it goes from 10 to 5 depending on the size of your screen. So let's go over to the footer template, and in the section, I will pop that in. So what that means is when we have items on the page, I want there to be like basically 10 REM before you hit the footer. Because if you've got an image, you don't want it to be right bang up against it, or another load of text, or a divider line. So I want a bit of space, but it will shrink from 10 REM to 5 REM as you go from the desktop to the mobile. Into block 1, our logo, so it's going to pop in a image. I will also pop in some rich text, and from the contact page, I'm going to go and grab in the icon list. Again, look. Don't reinvent what you've already got, okay? So let's just paste that in. Oh, it's gone all the way to the bottom. Let's just pick that up and pop it in the right place like that, okay? We're going to go to the block, go to the content, go down to row gap, and I'm going to say give me 3 REM like that. Go to the image. I mean, you're flying at this point, right? Let's go and pick up our logo. We'll go for this one. We go to style, we'll go down to the width. I'm going to make it be 120 pixels, so it's slightly smaller than what we had before. One thing I did forget to do, however, is my container. I'm just going to go and set this to be 1100. Now, even though my header goes all the way across, I want the footer to follow the rule of the rest of the page. Otherwise, it might look a little bit weird with. I don't mind the header being out, but when you get down, I don't want the footer to then go like that, because it will just feel a little bit weird. So I want my footer to all be within that 1100 boundary. So if I hit save and we go to preview, you can see what it's doing there at the moment. By the way, don't worry about these being grey. It's because there's no items in the block, which is why it's showing that. 1.4 REM. So even when you get to the mobile, right, it's going to be 1.4. It follows that through. I'm bringing through the typography maybe, or the color. That's all brought over. Maybe if I had a particular line height, all of that's going to be coming over. But I want it to just be 1.4 REM, okay? So you can tinker with the classes. You could create a completely new one. You could call it text-footer if you want. That's up to you. You can do that. Inside of my block, I am also going to add in a little bit of padding. So I'm going to go to my layout, 2 REM like that. This isn't a bad time actually to just get rid of those blocks I had. And I'm now going to duplicate them like that, because I've gone and tinkered with it a tiny bit. Let's now just get rid of the items we had in there. Do we need that? No, we don't need the image. We don't need the rich text. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that as well. Now, inside of here, I'm going to drop in the nav menu, drop it into here. Then I'm going to go and make this nav menu be a vertical now. I'm going to make sure that we haven't got any gap. Go to typography, and I'm going to now overwrite what we have here with 1.4 REM. I'm going to say that the breakpoint never occurs. So it doesn't matter what breakpoint you're on. I don't want that toggle to appear. So I can get rid of the mobile menu that we have there. I'm going to add in a little bit of extra spacing here with 2 REM's a bit too much. We'll go with 1 REM like that. I do feel that this block is too close to the very first one, so I'm just going to pick it up and actually increase the space over there, so just move it over. And then in the third block, I'm now going to go and get a copy of our icon list that we had over here. Just copy that list, paste that. Change the style of the typography for that to be 1.4 REM. I mean, look, 1.4 is only 14 pixel. Web accessibility, just say that 12 is okay. I'm never really that sure about going down to that. I always go, really, do you want to do that? I would say 16 is actually the norm. But if you do want to shrink it down, 14 or 15 is, in fact, you know what? I think let's just, I'm sorry, I'm just going to pop this back to, yeah, I think we should go with 16. Just something was just like gnawing away at me at the moment there. Just pop that to 16. And I'm going to do the same for this rich text as well. So you could create a class for footer text, like I said. We go to the list over here. We're now going to drop in some further items. I'm just going to duplicate what we already had over here. I'm going to call it privacy policy. It's going to be an internal URL, and it's going to go to the privacy policy page like that. Really quick and easy. We are missing something quite crucial. We don't have a copyright statement anywhere. So I'm going to pick up my rich text and I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to bring that in under my list like this. I am then going to change the block, which currently has a 3 REM, and get rid of it just to see how, yeah, that looks okay. I'm going to go to my rich text and I'm going to get rid of the text we have there. I'm then going to click the icon over here for select dynamic data. We're going to click that. and I'm going to bring through the date. Current date. On the WordPress front end, it says May the 11th, 2023. We don't want that. We actually want to show a different format. So here's what you do. You go over here, you put colon and you put a Y. Just one Y will do. Let's just save that and go back over to our page and we just refresh this. Well, it now says 2023. So we've gone from showing the full year to just 2023. So now if we go back over to our footer, why don't we go and add in a bit more? The easiest thing to do is just search for copyright symbol, copy this over. You can just literally copy it. It's that easy. Go over to your page or your footer even. Pop that in there. Here's space. Here's space over there. Copyright and all. You can see here now this is a little bit too narrow. So I'm going to go over here and I'm actually just going to shrink this down a bit because actually it doesn't need to be that wide. The menu is only so much, right? And if you were looking at it in the mobile, it looks all fine as well. And don't forget, we've got our new mobile menu as well. The last thing we need to do is just go and set the conditions for this. Go over to the settings in the top, go down to template settings, go to conditions, add condition, and we're going to have it on the entire website. I really don't want to, but we're going to have to. And when you're looking at the home page, you scroll down and you're going to get your very wonderful footer with links that are going to take you over to other pages like the privacy policy. Yay, everyone is super happy. Not. I hope you're enjoying what we're doing. I hope you smashed the like button. I hope you're learning some tips and tricks and appreciating a great efficient way of working. We're not done there yet though. I still on the home page want to add in 3 blog posts, but we want to have a blog archive page and a single post template as well. And then after we've done all that, we're going to start looking into a bit more in depth in terms of RankMath and SEO. And stay with me because we are going to be also adding in some custom fields, but we're not going to use a custom field plugin. We're all just going to do it manually, and I'm going to show you how. Creating posts in WordPress couldn't be simpler, but we are going to take it a step further. If we go over to WordPress and go to post and we go to add new, you'll then get a screen where you can start to add posts. And if I just go and bring in the sidebar over here, you'll see that we can start adding in categories, featured images, excerpt, and we can go and add in our content. You can add text, images, videos. There's lots of items you can use over here. And the great thing is that when you do kind of then build a single post template, it will bring over that content as you build it. So if you decide to put in lots of fancy colors and bold and reds here and there, it will do all of that. However, there are limitations. All you have is what you have here. What if you wanted to collect from people something like the reading time of a post, or maybe the level of a post, basic, intermediate, advanced? Maybe you're talking about courses or particular types of services. Maybe this is like a menu website, not a menu website, a food website or a travel website, and you want to share details that must be present on every single post. You might forget to put it in, or if you've got people that are doing guest posts, it could become a problem. So what you want to do is add in some custom fields. Now, there are lots of plugins out there. However, I'm going to show you how you could do it completely for free just using a code snippet. So I'm going to go over to Snippet and I'm going to click Add New and I'm going to dump this in here. Now, this does look quite complicated, but don't worry, okay? I will put a copy of this code and a link in the video description. Obviously, you're not going to use the exact same code I've got here. But the way this code was generated was I popped this text into ChatGPT. Like it or lump it, okay? I had a look at it, double checked the content, and it looked fine for me, and I tested it out, and it does what it needs to do. This is going to create for me 3 custom fields, and it's not only going to do that, it's actually going to create a drop-down box for me as well. Reading time, level, and I've even got one for source. So into this field, I could dump in a URL, I could dump in a location, I could dump in whatever I want. Let me now just go and hit Save Changes and Activate. This saves me adding in another plugin because I'm not having any repeater fields. I'll put a link in the video as well in case you don't understand what that means, but I'm not doing anything too complex. I've now activated that. Now if I go over to my posts and I go to add new, you're going to notice that we now have 3 new fields there. We've got reading time with the word minutes because that's how I wrote it. So I could go in here now and say 4 minutes reading time. We've got a drop down for our level, and I can pop whatever I want into it. I can pop in a URL or a bit of text. That is now going to be visible on every single post. So let's go and create a brand new post straight away. I'll give it a title, dump some lorem ipsum text in. I know this is not amazing, but I just want to get across how this works. And at any point, I could go down here, hit a return, go and hit the plus sign, add in a image. Let's go with this one here. And of course, I can scale it, shrink it, do what you want. And I could align it to be in the center. I mean, if you find the spacing isn't absolutely right, you just go above. You can again drop in a spacer and move images up and down. That is simplicity, how you would just create a post. This is why using the block editor for posts is actually not a bad thing. So I'm going to click add new category and give it a name. You could of course go into WordPress where you have posts and it says categories, and you could go and add them in there individually, or you could just do it on the fly. We're going to call this one web design, hit return. And in fact, what I'll do is I might as well create some more as well. If you wanted to create a subcategory, you could do so. I could go over here and say go for bricks builder, and this will fall under web design, and I hit that, you will now have a subcategory over there. I'm not actually fussed about that, so I'm going to just remove that for now and just go for web design. In your tags is where you would go and add in anything that's pretty important from an SEO point of view. So if this was a particular brand and it wasn't going to fit as a category, go and start sticking in some words in there. Don't do what people were doing in the year 2000 where Britney Spears was the tag for nearly every post out there. But think very methodically about what you want to show. Now, we don't have a featured image over here, so we're going to go here, click this, and we're going to add in a featured image. Again, please do remember to make sure that all of your images have some form of alt text in there, because it really helps from an SEO and a web accessibility point of view. Now, you can add in an excerpt if you want. I'm not always crazy about them, depending on how you're going to show your blog archive. It is completely optional. The last thing I'm going to do is just say do not allow comments, because I just don't want to be moderating them. Now, if we go back over to our actual post, imagine you've now done everything you wanted to. You've put whatever text you want. I'm going to say this has got a reading time of, we'll go with 5 minutes. I'm going to say this is a basic. And I'm going to say the source of this, and I've just typed in a URL. You can pop in words. You can pop in whatever you want, okay? And that's all we're going to do. And then I hit publish, and we now have a post. Now, what I'm going to do is duplicate this, change the title, change the featured image. I'm not going to change the content, but I want to get about 5 or 6 posts on here, so we've got something when we start working on our bricks post archive template. So I have 6 posts now, and they all have their categories except this one here, which actually crosses into 3 categories, and that's perfectly okay as well. Now, we haven't done any rank math or any keywords, anything here. We're going to do that later on, so you can ignore the non-applicable that you're seeing here at the moment. If you go and view any of these posts, they do look really ugly. It's not, the contrast there is all wrong at the moment. Yeah, I mean, look, you can get away with it. If I'm honest, you could get away with this, okay? I mean, you got your footer still, you still got your header at the top. You could get away with it, but we need to really improve on it. And at the moment, this is how our posts look, which again, it's not too bad, but let's make it look so much better and make it fit more our branding on our homepage. And also we're going to have a blog page. And then obviously when you click into them, we want this to look so much cleaner and better. And we are going to create a sidebar as well. We go to bricks, we go to templates, we click add new, and we're going to give this the title of post archive. And then from the template type, we are going to pick this one over here called archive. I know it doesn't say post, but that's what the archive is there for. Let's click that. What we're going to do is just dump in a section and a container into the section. We're going to follow through the same style that we've been doing before. So I'm going to go and give this 2 REM padding on the left and the right. Then into the container, we are going to go and grab the post widget. Now, if you go and type in archive, you're not going to get anything. So what you need to do is just type in post like that, and you will see post. Don't start pulling over any of these. These are more relevant for, say, the single post template, which we are going to come on to later on. But now we're just going to dump in the post, and straight away we get that. click on the title, and it's going to take me to that very boring, ugly post, well, the example that we have at the moment. But let's make this look a whole lot better than what we have at the moment. Let's go to my section. I'm going to say that forever and a day, there will always be 5 REM from the top. Don't care what breakpoint you're on, and it will follow that through, so you don't have to go through and check every breakpoint. We go to the post. Let's click on the content, and we have quite a lot of settings here, but we're going to go through them systematically. The very first one is the query. You click this and you get a bit of a pop-up over here, and this is now where you get to define, well, what are we going to see? This down here is more about the fields and the layout, but this query is about what you're going to see. So we are going to see posts, obviously, but we could also do pages, which is really, really ridiculous because none of my pages have a featured image. Remember, if you wanted to do that, go over to settings, go to page settings, go to social media, and down here you'll have your image that you want to go and set, which we're not doing for this scenario. Let's just go back over to our post, go to query, and we're going to remove that. I mean, it will default to post, but you can, if you want, just make sure you stick it in. What's the order you want to go for? Do you want to go for date order? Do you want to go with descending or ascending? Maybe you want to do it by the name or the author. By the way, if you're ever working on a WordPress website and your products or your posts, you want to do them by date order, but you want to kind of manipulate the order a little bit. Because if you go with title, it's A to Z or Z to A. And you find, well, these aren't really working for you. You can see the timestamp of when these were done. What if I want this post over here to be the latest one? It was done on the same date at 9:17. I'm going to go in here, quick edit, and I'm going to change the time to be 25. And I hit update. That post, okay, is now at a later time. Now when I refresh the page, boost your online credibility is now gone over here. So if you've created products, but now you want to be a little bit, controlling over the order, just go and change the date. I could, if I want, change this to only show 2 posts. At the moment, we only have 6, so I'm going to leave that blank. We can also offset. So we know the boost your online is the very first post because it's in date descending order. If I put in a 1, that first post has disappeared. If I put in a 2, the first 2 will disappear. I put in a 3, the first 3 will disappear, and you get the idea. This is a great little feature here where I might say I'm going to exclude the boost post like that, and it will now disappear. Maybe the boost post is post number 5. And it gets really ridiculously silly if you try doing offsetting there. I can now exclude that entire post. Maybe I just don't want it visible on here. Or you can just restrict, include, exclude categories. So terms include, I'm going to say, well, give us the digital marketing one. You can define what you want to do. Now, why is that good? You could use this for a particular category with a particular style. You could then create another one with a different style for a different category. So you're not restricted to just doing one kind of style. And if I was to scroll back up and say, only show me 2 posts like that, and when I scroll down and say, give me an infinite scroll, and let me just view that now on an actual page, as you scroll down, they start to appear, okay? So what would have happened is, and I'll try and show you that again, you have 1 and then it jumped through. So if that was like a full screen and you only had 1, as you scroll down, more will start to filter through. Now I'm going to move on to the layout tab. And this is where we currently have a grid layout. You could, if you want, go for a list like that. You can get rid of the images as well, by the way. Or you could go for a masonry style, which works quite well when you have a mixture of horizontal or vertical portrait images. So you've got a bit of that like brick effect. Or you could go for Metro as well. For anyone that's kind of bored of your traditional design, this is not bad. It really isn't. However, depending on how much wording you got, it might start to look a little bit cramped. So I am going to go for the boring standard grid for now. I'm also going to say that we have 3 columns. I mean, look, you could go with 5, why don't we do 6? If you could change the size of your wording, maybe your post titles are very short, you could get away with that. Let's just pop it to 3. I mean, if I remove the spacing, they're now going to be cramped up against one another. If I was to go with 100 pixel, you can see what it's doing. I think the 30 pixel is actually quite nice, so we'll leave it at that. And here's the option to now make the very first post be full width. So there we go. We have our full width. You scroll down and you have your different, well, the standard design. We're going to do some quick styling. And then what we're going to do is bring into here the custom field. Because can you notice they're not there? And that's the other thing as well. Out the box, it's not going to pull anything through, but we can easily do that in a moment. Let's go over to image. Do we want to show the image? Well, yeah, it's kind of nice. Do we want to link the image? Right now, the link is on the title. I would say linking on the image is a good idea as well. I really do. I don't see why you wouldn't want to do that. We can modify the size of it, so I could go with a 300 like that and make it smaller. But what I do like is the grid image ratio. So if you go here and we pick 16:9, you're going to get a very horizontal landscape. If you go for the 4:3, it's not so bad, but it's not as cramped. I also strongly recommend that you set your image size to be full. Now let's get onto the fields. We currently have the post title and it says the word link, and we have post excerpt. Well, we already know that I'm not using excerpt. So I'm going to get rid of the excerpts like that. They're gone. Now let's click the post title link. It's a H3 and we can see the spacing. So if I was to get rid of that, you know, I mean, I don't need to explain what that's doing. That's now controlling the positioning of it. If I click on the lightning bolt or the dynamic data post title, however, post title does not, there you see that title there. It's now put it after one another. So you can actually add it in twice. In fact, I'm going to do this. If I go and say hyphen like that, you're going to hyphen in between. Can you see my mouse? That is a link. That is not a link. Because can you notice here, we've got colon link. So if I was to go in now and do colon link like that, that is now a link as well. So what bricks give you, don't just go, oh, I don't want that and delete it. Study it for a little bit, learn something from it and utilize that later on. I am going to leave the title in and leave the link in as well like that. I'm going to give this a size of 1.6 rem. Now, I'm not using any clamp here because I want it to be 1.6 regardless of what size screen you're on. Just make sure you pick your color and pick your weighting as well. If you want to centralize, you can do, but I think left aligned is perfectly fine. And if you click the overlay, this will now pop it back over here. And this is where you would now have to think about a background color. So you might need to go and do something like that. You can probably make it be a little bit transparent. You would now mess around with the placement of it. So there's a lot more work required if you want to go down that road, which I don't. So I'm going to undo that and get rid of the overlay. Now let's go and add in a few more fields. We click add field. I'm going to type in post and I'm going to go grab the date like that. It's put it before the post title link, so just quickly get rid of it. I'm going to get rid of the 20 we got there. In fact, I'm going to go over here and change that 20 to be more like I think 10. I'm going to go to my post date. I'm going to put colon, and if I put a Y, I'll get the year. If I do Y and M, I'll get, well, you can see what it's doing. And now you can see the difference in the format that we got there. I will go for D, capital M, and we'll go for a lowercase y like that. Okay, so you can control the style of your dates. Now I'm going to bring over our term, and I will rearrange it, by the way. So I'm going to hit the no, I'm not going to duplicate, so it brings over the styling. Click that. In fact, can I just get rid of that first? Cats for categories, and we'll add that in, and now the wording has appeared. I'm going to make this be a much bolder, like 700 like that, just so it stands out. I am going to drop this down to be a 1.4 as well. Remember, web accessibility does allow you to go down to 12 pixel or 1.2 rem. I don't recommend it. I really don't. I feel like that's going too... I mean, look, this is what it would look like. You can get away with it, but I don't feel good about that. But I'm prepared to go down to 1.4. I am going to go to my category. I'm going to pop in a colon and I'm going to say link because I want that to link to the actual... Well, let me show you. Look, let me just hit save for a moment, okay, just so you understand it. You click this and it takes you to the post, which we don't want. You click this, and remember, in fact, let me pick one. There we go, SEO and keywords. We've only got one post for that. If I click there, sorry, there were two because I forgot. I've got it in here as well. It takes me there, and we've got this rubbish style because we've not set the display conditions yet. So I'm linking to it. It's really quick and easy to do. And before I move on to the next field, I'm going to pick this up and I'm actually going to move it now to just be above the title. In fact, that's now looking not so great. So we'll add in about 20 there. I'm going to get rid of, we'll get rid of that gap there. And that's the kind of look at the moment. You can, if you want, go and pop in a field and click on the bolt and you can actually type read and you will get this over here, a field, and that will now take you to the post. So if you want to do a read more, go for it. And of course, you can stylize it. So you might go, hey, we're going to make it be a yellow. We're going to give it a bit of padding, something like that. And you could now create a button as well and then stylize it to sit where you want. And the final field I'm going to add is a custom field. I'm going to hit the dynamic data. And when you scroll all the way down, eventually right here, you're going to get your fields. They're right at the bottom. Well, they're in the custom field section. I should have just said that. When you go all the way down, reading time, level, and source. I'm not going to do reading time or source yet. I'm going to go for level like that. And you get the words come through. I'm just going to modify the styling of this. Go to the typography. I'm going to make this be a 400 like the text that we have below here. I'm going to leave it as a 1.4. And all I'm going to do now here is actually click into the field and I'm going to say level colon like that. For the content tab, all I'm going to do is adjust the space we have at the bottom. So where we have the margin over here, I'm going to say at the bottom, give me a little bit more spacing. So I'm going to say just go for about 20, let's go with 30. Just give me a bit more spacing there like that. We're not going to add in a background color, which you could do if you want. I mean, we are going to have to address something here where we look. Can we see we have this gap? So even if you did have it, it's not very perfect, is it? There will be some that go, well, hey, look, the bulk of it is kind of in line, so let it go. I mean, there'll be some that go, I don't like that. I want that button there to be at the bottom. Like I want all the buttons to be right at the bottom in line with one another, regardless of what the content is. So what I've done is used a post widget. What you actually need to use is a block and convert it to do a query loop. I am now, in effect, going to basically duplicate our current section that we have here at the bottom. I'm going to get rid of the post. So now we're back to a section and container. And I'm going to literally build from scratch, but I'm going to do it really quickly. I wanted to show you the post because when we move to the query loop, everything I now do is going to become a lot easier to understand. So inside of the container, we're now going to go and drop in a block. I'm going to go to the block, which we're familiar with using during this tutorial, and I'm going to say make it a query loop. Notice the query option has now appeared. You go into here, and basically I'm just going to go post, we'll leave it in date descending order. I'm not going to change the number of posts. I'm not messing around with any of the terms or what's included or excluded. And remember, we still have the infinite scroll option as well. There is a big difference. In fact, I'm going to tell you about the big difference later on. And that is why, when you'll understand, why did you even bring the Gridbuilder plugin over? You're not even using it. You'll understand why in a moment. Image. We're going to drop in some, rich text, but we'll go rich text again. We'll then go in with a heading. We'll go with rich text and we'll go for a button like that. Now you will notice, oh my God, everything is kind of like duplicating on itself. Don't worry about that. I'm just going to go over to my block, go to my query loop, and I'm going to say, just show me one for now. So it's easier to work with. Now let's go to our image and click down here where we have the bolt. I'm then going to type in feature or feet and go and pick the featured image. That is now come through. Don't worry about the size of it just yet. Just get your stuff in, okay? Then we go to the very first rich text, which, if we remember, was the keyword. So let's just get rid of the text we have over here. Click the bolt, go to terms, and then I'm going to pick categories. I'm just going to quickly rush through this and then I'll do all the styling. I'm now going to go and pick the date that we have here, current date. I don't like the format of that. So we're going to go here and we're going to go D, capital M and a Y. Heading is not going to be the heading. It's going to be the post title like that. In fact, get rid of the word I am a heading. In fact, don't forget to put the words colon and link. Let me do it over here with the category as well. We'll just do colon and link again. The bolt on that one. And we're now going to go to the custom fields and pick level. And then I'm going to put the word level before like that. Trust me, once you've done it, it's not that difficult. And I know it feels like I've just replicated a load of effort, but I really wanted to get across what's the problem with if you just use the standard post widget, because a lot of people will go straight to that. And it's almost like if you don't know about the query loop, that little bit there, you may overlook it. That's a 1.4, that's a 1.6, and that is a 1.4. You could, if you want, set a style, go to row gap and just go for something like 10 pixel like that, and that kind of starts to nicely space things out. Now, before we refine the layout of that, let's just start linking this to the post, because at the moment, it doesn't matter where you click, it's not going to go anywhere. So let's go to the image first. Down here, it says link to. I'm going to click this and go to other URL. And then in the next box, I'm going to pick dynamic data. You don't want to go to an external and you don't go to internal, because that will only go to specific posts or pages. I want it to be relative or dynamic to the actual post. You go to dynamic data. You then click the bolt and then type the word link and you will see post link. That will now go to the post link. We don't have to worry about the category because we've already put the word link. We're going to go to the button. We're going to pick dynamic data. You're going to hit the bolt. You're going to type in link and you will now go to the post link. So if I save that and we go here now, you click it, it's going to go to the link. You click over there, it's going to go to digital marketing. We have 3 that have digital marketing. You click this to I'm a button, and again, it goes to the post. So let's just refine the wording on the button. Go back to my query loop, and let's now say we want to see more posts, and they're all going to sit underneath one another. So I'm going to go to the container that contains the blocks. You got to get your head around this, because you might start going to the blocks and adjusting the width of that, and not much happens. Well, it will, but not the way you want. I'm going to go to container. And I'm going to say, make this be a row. Everything now goes jumbled up. Well, that's because it's piling everything into one. I mean, if I was to now start adding in like 20 more posts, you're going to get all 20 sit in a row, endless, because we haven't set the wrap. And you might say, but this is now back to what we were before. This is no better. But look, let me just first add in some gaps here, 30 pixel on the column and the row. And I might come back and adjust that just so we have a bit more gap. I'm then going to go to my block. I'm then going to go to my style, because all we've done is wrap the contents of the container, but the blocks are still going all the way across. So let me go and pop in a value of about 335 like that. Now you are going to say, yeah, but your buttons are still not kind of in line with where they need to be. We'll go over to our block, go to our content, and do you see here space between? So that will now create a space between. Then I go to my container and I say I want everything inside of there to be stretched. Look at that. Can you see it? It's like you got to do one bit and then you got to do another bit. But we've got our block and we know the items are spaced between, but it's still not doing it. And that's because the container that they all sit into needs to now just stretch a bit. That's what we got now. And our buttons are now in line. 5 over there, pixel, space from the top. Perfectionist bit of me just kicking in. I just like to have my spacing. So when we get over to this block here now, for the mobile, I want the style to actually be 100% like that. I don't want it to be shrunken down as it was for the desktop. Desktop, I don't mind. Mobile, I want it to be 100%. Outside of the block, but still in the container, I'm going to go and drop in a heading like that. Just pick it up and put it in the right place over there. Remember, though, that because everything is set as a row, we just got to go to our heading, go and set it to have a width of 100%. Because we went and added in a column gap, though, it's now created a gap over there, which I don't like. These are things you sometimes do in hindsight. So content, I'm going to get rid of the 60 pixel there, go to the block, though, and I will do it over there for the block. So I'll say, give me a 60 pixel over there, which I don't mind. For the heading, though, which we have here, I'm going to pick one of our classes, and we're going to go for heading page. Remember we did that? I might just want to, I can't remember what the gap was, but I think it was about, I think it was 5 REM. I'm going to go with about 20 pixels like that. I'm going to change our heading to be our amazing blog. Then I'm going to go over to the settings, go to template settings, go to conditions, hit the plus sign, and I'm going to say show this for the archive. Basically for all archives, to be honest. I don't really need to pick that, but I'm going to leave it as all archives. Go and hit save. Overall, that is looking so much better than what we had before. But what about adding in a filtering system? Now, I want to show you what you will get traditionally with bricks and why you might want to move to using Gridbuilder, which is a premium plugin, which is $49 per year, but it is worth it. So above our new block post loop that we've gone and created, I've gone and popped in a new section container right at the top. I'm not going to do no styling on this, and all we have inside of here is the post 3 columns, right? There is an option down here called filter. You do not get this when you do the post or the query loop with the block. Look, if you scroll down, in fact, if we click on query, you don't get that filter option. And if I was to go over here and type in filter, there is nothing there for you. So on the traditional post, the option for filter is there. And if I click it and I now go and say, well, okay, I'll tell you what, we'll go for the categories. And then what will happen is at the top, we will now have this become visible. Now, I'm not going to bother styling this, okay? So if I now click any one of these, it is, I have to admit, very nice and stylish. What we're then going to do is go over to WordPress and go to Gridbuilder. I'm not going to put a link for this in the video description. You can go and search for it. So I don't want you to say, oh, you're only doing this for affiliate purposes. I'm not got any affiliate set up with them whatsoever. What you would do is after installing it, and you've paid for it, you then also want to download the bricks extension or the add-on as well. This is free. Well, once you've paid for the Gridbuilder, you can then just go and download it. So go and get that. Then go to Gridbuilder and go to where it says all facets. You don't really need to mess around with any settings whatsoever. We're going to go here and we're going to click create a facet and we're going to give it a name. I'm going to call it categories and I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it here as well. Then I'm going to go to behavior. For my categories, I do like the button look, so we're going to go for a button. You could go for a drop down, checkbox, select. You can even go for range if you got WooCommerce and a price range. But we're going to go for filter and we're going to go for buttons. Down here now is where I get to select what I want. Now, we are using categories, so very easily we're just going to pick categories. We do have a subcategory for one of them, but so we can show that if we want. But I am also going to say do not show empty choices. Anyway, I'm going to hit save changes. Underneath our header, I am now going to go and drop in our grid builder. So what you can do is type in facet or face and you'll see the option there. Now, as soon as you do that, the layout's all gone really, really funny. That's because we just need to set the style of this to be 100%. Because remember, this container is wrapped. However, you can't see it. It is there, but it's not visible. Go to the content tab and select one of them. We'll go for categories, then select the post it's going to touch. So if you have got maybe 2 or 3, make sure you pick the right one. You'll know which one it is when you pick it, because if you pick it and that category or that field you selected is not present or relevant for the post, it will just say there's nothing to be found. If I go back into Gridbuilder in WordPress and the settings, you will see color schemes that you can use to modify. So I've given this a slightly darker yellow color. So it works. You do have this title over here. If you don't want the title, unfortunately, there is no setting for you to remove it. So what you've got to do is right click it, inspect it, get the class name for it, which in this case is WPGB Facet Title. Go to the style tab, go to CSS, dot is quite important. WPGB Facet Title, display none. And now that wording is disappeared. I'm just going to go over to my facet. I'm just going to give it a bit of layout over here, 30 pixel. And that's looking a little bit better now because now we have our filtering system. And I know it's not as snazzy as what you're getting with bricks. But if you're trying to work with like a post like the block with the post query loop, that's what you're going to have to do. However, if you're not so fussed about the buttons not being level, you could just use the post element and the built-in filter. So you got to weigh it up really with, do you want to spend more for the grid builder or not? Now let's go and touch the actual templates that are going to drive these posts. I don't like this layout. I want to go for a layout. We have items that are occupying the first 66% roughly, or 70% of the left-hand side. On the right hand side, on the final 25 or 30%, we'll have a sidebar. Now, I do want to show you that if you go over into WordPress and you go to bricks, there is an option here called sidebars. I don't like using this, but let me just create one. We'll call it Test SB. I'm not going to give it a description. We're going to click create new sidebar, and there it is. And you're going to go, well, okay, now what do I do? And you might suddenly think, well, do I just go into my templates over here? Do I click add new? Will it be visible over here? No, it's not. So what do I do? What you've got to do is go over to your appearance, and you will have the option down here called widgets. You click that. And then you scroll down here and you will have Test SB. And you click that, and then you will have lots of options, and you're going to start adding things into here. But it gets a little bit messy because now you're working with your traditional block classic editor, and I'm not a massive fan of that. So what we're going to do is go back over to Bricks sidebar like this, and I am going to eliminate that sidebar completely. What we're going to do is create our own sidebar, and I think it will be quite fun and easy to do. Trust me, it is actually really simple. Go to templates, and the first thing we're going to do is create a single post template, and we're going to split it into two. Call this single post template, and over here I'm now going to pick single, publish, and then edit with bricks. I'm going to add in a section and container, and then I'm going to go and drop a block into the container over here as well. You don't have to always go with a section and a container. You can go with a container and then do a block and a block, or a container and a container and a container. You can do that. From force of habit and the way I like to build, I like to go with this approach, because if at any time I decide I now want to put a header before the container, but it sits in the section or anything else, I can do. Whereas if I just go straight with container, block, 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 or whatever, I feel like I've now got to kind of rejig it and mess around. So it's easier for me to mess around with if I go with the approach that I've kind of just shown you. I'm now going to duplicate this block like that, go to my container, and I'm going to make it be a row. Let's go to our section. Let's go and do a bit of styling. We kind of know what we're doing here. I could just do 5 REM like that. And on the padding, I'm going to go with 2 REM. We then go to our first block. The style of this, let's go with, I think 75% should be okay. And then the second block, I'm going to make that be 25% like that. So you can see the layout that we've now got. Into the first block, we're going to drop in quite a lot of stuff that is relevant to the post now. Remember, we did have some custom fields. The first thing I'm going to add in is the image, then add in the post title. Now, we could do some meta stuff as well. I'm not always a fan of the meta. In fact, let me just show you. If you go to content, you can start adding in some separate fields like this over here. It's not a bad way to build if you want to do that. The beauty about it is that you can stack things over. So in actual fact, what we'll do is we'll get rid of the author name. We'll get rid of the comments as well, and what we'll do is we will add some further items. So before we progress, let's go and do that. Let's hit the add meta. Let's just get rid of the author name, click that. I'm going to type in categories. Now you will notice that even though I added in the category, it's not appeared there. And that's because sometimes it struggles to go, well, what do you want to show, even though there are items? Go to the settings at the top, go to template settings, and you will see an option over here called populate content. Click that, go to content type, then pick single post and page. And what you want to do, I'll just get rid of this example here. You want to then click that, and it won't necessarily always give you a name. So try and find the name of a post that you know exists, type it, then click it, then click apply preview. And what it will now do is give you a preview of the item. So now you can actually see what is showing on your page. Right, let's go back to the metadata. I think we can actually swap these two fields around like that. And I'm going to add in a divider with a pipeline, and I'm going to shorten it to be about 10 like that. I'm going to stylize this, go to typography, and I'm actually going to just say 1.4 REM. I don't need it to be too big. I'm then going to duplicate it like that. Ooh, that's a bit too close, isn't it? Let's go to the block. Let's go to our content. Let's go to our row gap. I'm going to go with about 10 pixel. I could go with 1 REM as well, but 10 pixel. Yeah. Look, I've said it before many times in the video. It's not the be all or the end all. You can mix and match. Let's go to the second line, and I'm just going to modify this now. I'm going to get rid of the items over here. I'm going to pick this, scroll all the way down until we get to level, and I'm going to pick that and then put the word level over there like that. So we have level. And then in the second one, we're going to get rid of the post data. I'm going to scroll down until we get to reading time. And I'm going to just pop the word reading time like that. Well, that's looking pretty simple. Now we're just going to go over to our image, click the bolt, and then go and type feet for featured image. And we will now have our featured image appear. Now you'll notice at the moment, everything is going up against right to the edge over there. So let's go and do a bit of styling on the first block. Now I'm just going to say, give me 5 REM like that. I'm going to change this text to be the heading hero. So it's a bit more bolder, but it has slightly, what that has now got is the responsive sizing in there that we had before that we did with the clamp. But I am going to overwrite it a bit. So I'm going to clear out the yellow, but it still maintains the styling for the clamp. Go over to our typography, and where we have the weighting, I'm going to drop that down. I think, yeah, 600 is a little bit better there. It was a bit too bold for my liking. Okay, great. So we got all of that in. Now we will enter in the post content. So I'm going to pick that up. That will now go below, and you can see what's happening. Do you remember how we created our post with lorem ipsum and we just dropped in an image? That is all coming through now like that. I am, however, going to go to my post content, and I'm going to go and click text body. Again, we get the clamp responsiveness kick in. I'm going to go over to my layout, 20 pixels like that. And don't get me wrong, it's not the greatest post we got here, but you get the idea. And then the very last item I'm going to end, in fact, no, I am going to add something else in. Sorry, I should have mentioned this. I am going to go and type in the word social. So maybe we want users to share this. So I'm going to click that, put it above the content over there. I'm going to go quickly style that. Look, I mean, you don't really have to have all of them. Let's get rid of Pinterest. Set your colors accordingly. Say, give me 10 pixels like that spacing on the right-hand side. And then I am going to go down to the border like that, because remember, I don't want to have any rounded. And say, give me 0 around the sides like that. That is our single post template. Look, you could mess around with the sizing here if you want, but I'm trying to keep it pretty simple. One thing we did actually forget to do was, if I go back to my elements, we didn't have a related post. So let's just go and drop that in. I'm going to pick it up and pop it underneath the post content. So let me get rid of the excerpt over there. In fact, you could get rid of the post date as well. You would stylize this accordingly. You know, you would go for what you want. I mean, all I'm going to do here, just for the basis of what we're doing, I'm just going to add in about 40 pixel from the top there. You could put a title in there to say related posts. What is key though is how it automatically puts in the common taxonomy. You remove that and, well, then it's no longer a related post, but I think you get the idea there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that bit because, in all honesty, that is now your single post template. Compared to what we had before, that is so much better. What we're now going to do is just double check how that looks on the mobile. So block 1 is going to be 100% in width like that. And when we get to block 2, that will also be 100%. Sidebars on mobiles, never really a good idea, okay? Also, what we want to do for the block is actually just pop that in a 0. I'm just going to make one quick change to the meta over here, which looks quite ugly at the moment. Decided to leave the separator out now just because it doesn't look great when you switch over to the mobile version. Okay, I'm going to go over to my settings. We're going to go to template settings. We're going to go to conditions, hit add condition, and I'm now going to say that this is visible for post type, and we are now going to say posts. Now let's go work on our sidebar that we are going to stick here. Now my tip to you is don't build your sidebar directly into the single post template. What you should do instead is pop a template into a template, because you might reuse that sidebar elsewhere on your website. So if you now use it on inside a WooCommerce single product as well, or maybe you go and add it to, say, the contact page, every time you add it and you want to change it, you've got to go into each single page and template. The best way to do it is create a template And then whenever you want to make a change, you do it on that template and it will pass it through everywhere else. Let's go and do that. Let's go to bricks. Let's go to templates. Let's click add new template. We're going to then pick a section over here. I'm going to click the block. We're going to go to the style. We're going to go to the layout. 25% of 1100 is 275, like that, just so I've got my sizing all nicely sorted out for me. We are going to have some padding going all the way, or well, there'll definitely be padding on the left and right. We're not going to do it on the top or anything like that just yet until we've assessed it. Into here, we're just going to start dropping in a few items. So I'm going to add in a image, a couple of headers, go and pick up our icon list as well, which is copy that. And I'm just going to pop that in as well. We're going to pop in a image, go about 300 by 300, crop it, save it. And then I'm going to go back into edit image and I'm now going to scale it to be about 200 in scale. Let's just scale that down. I'm going to just centralize everything at the moment inside of this block. We've got 20. I think the 2 REM is not enough. No, 2 REM should be okay actually, because we've already going to have some space, aren't we, from block 1, because we added in 5 REM there. Add some wording in. We're going to go and pick our text body like that, so we know it scales as you go up and down. For our header there, I am going to go with the style though, where we had the heading services. I'm also going to do the same for this second heading that we've got like that. This form, which is a copy of our other form, we're actually going to get rid of the name. We're going to get rid of the phone number and we're going to get rid of that. And in terms of the submit button, we're going to say make that be 100% like that. And in terms of the email, this is where you might, obviously when you go through the fields over here, actions, you would probably go and pick MailChimp, or you'll have a custom and you might have an APR that's going off somewhere else. So I'm going to go to my field, go to email, and I'm going to change the label to be subscribe. And that is our sidebar. Really quick and easy. We are going to have to just go in here and say it's okay to be 275, but when you get to the mobile, I want it to be 100% like that. Go over to your template and you will now have a shortcode. So into this block, I am going to add in a short code. You can, if you want, click on the block, click, say, this folder here, and then go, yep, insert the template. The trouble with that then is that now you have basically brought over this. And if you change this, it won't follow through on every other page because you now have to go through one by one to change it. And that's not a great way to do it. So I'm going to just get rid of that. And I've popped in my shortcode. Into the shortcode, we're going to paste what we just copied over. And you can see it's now brought it over. So if I was to now go over here and change this to be rounded, it will follow it through onto here as well. So I am now just going to hit save. By force of habit, I'm going to go to template settings, go to conditions. It is on the post type. Hit save again. Make sure everything is at the top is aligned. Go to portrait or the mobile and check. How is this going to look? I'm going to grab the template for the post archive page. I'm going to create a new page and call it blog. Drop in a short code like that. And then into the short code, I'm going to drop in my template, which is now there. So that is now present on our blog page and it's bringing through the contents because inside of there, there's a section, there's a container. So if I click any one of these items, it's going to take me over here. If I was to now click, let's go for this one. No, let's go for SEO and keywords, okay? This now takes me to my single post template. Does that make sense, what we've done here? And look, if we scroll down, we got our sidebar. That should actually say subscribe. Or you know what? That should say enter email. Should we do it right now? Just to show you that things are working. Well, okay, let's go over to our media library. Let's go to bricks. Let's go to templates. Let's go to the sidebar. Edit with bricks. Okay, let's go to our form, go to our button, which currently says send. Let's change it to be subscribe. Go to fields, go to email, and just add here, enter email instead like that. Let's go and hit save. Go back to our page over here, and when I refresh it, subscribe, enter email. Do you see that? It's all brought it over. Whereas if you had put the template in, you don't have to modify. Or if you've gone and put it on individual pages, again, you've got to go through one by one by one by one. And that is not the way you really want to be building. Anyway, look, we've got our post. And I don't know about you, but I think this works really, really well. Much better than what we had before. There is one final thing that I do want to do to the homepage. So let me just open it up. I do want to add 3 blogs to that. Now, we are going to go back over to our templates, go to the post archive and edit that just so we can pick it up. Basically, the block, which we will see over here. So where we have the block or over here that contains all of that, I'm going to pick up the, we're going to pick up the whole thing actually. We're going to pick up the whole of that. It's going to drop in a new section like that, pick it up and move it to be above. I'm then just going to hit paste to get all of my items into there. I'm then going to pull them out to be like that and get rid of the old ones. Sometimes I find that when you paste, things go a little bit funny. So just watch out for that, okay? This new section here that we've just added, I'm going to call the blog, which is what it is. In fact, this final one is not services anymore. It's reviews. Go to blog. Go to the container. We don't need to have the facet, because that's for the blog page. Let's get rid of that. We don't even need to have the heading. We can get rid of that. We got the block at the moment with read more, all of his. I'm actually going to get rid of the rich text, which was the date one here. Get rid of that. And I'm going to go to my block, go to my query loop, say just show me 3 posts like that. So this block is currently showing 5. Really easy. Just go to another one of your sections where we had the clamp, pick that up, go over to the blog, pop it in. So now we have the same item going out. Oh, we don't have the right height here. So let me just double check. I think we've got something going on here. Is it with the block? Yeah, there we go. 20 pixel. Get rid of that. And that should now all be okay, because when you view it on a mobile and you eventually get to that, there you've got your blogs, but the mobile's not looking good. So we go to the block, and for the mobile, we'll put in 40 like that. So there's our page. We've got the blog over there. If you're going to have WooCommerce, you'd have shop, contact, contact, cart and checkout and stuff like that. You scroll down, you've got your items. It's all fitting in with the brand, all okay. You know, doesn't matter where you go, you're going to click it. You're going to get over there. You want to go to your blog, you go to the blog. I hope you smash the like button, subscribe and share. Check out our website mastery modules and our how to start a web design business super course. We're going to jump into RankMath shortly, or SEO, search engine optimization, because there's no point doing all these fantastic looking pages and posts, or even eventually when you get onto WooCommerce products as well, if you're not helping to give yourself a fighting chance with regards to people finding you. Now, before we jump into that, we should also consider a 404 or an error page, because when you get onto doing search engine optimization, there's always going to be a chance that there'll be a post, a page, a URL that still is out there on search engines that someone's going to click, and it's going to go to a page that says error, for instance. So what you want to do is to fit your brand, go and create an error page or a 404 page, and within Bricks you do get the facility to do that as a template. I'm going to call it 404, and in the template type, make sure you pick error. Okay, make sure you do that, hit publish, and then edit with Bricks. I am going to reuse a section that we already built on our homepage, and it's this one here. I'm just going to copy that. It's not going to look anything like this, by the way. It's just, I'm just taking over the heading and all of that. I'm going to drop in a section. I'm then going to hit paste. So now we've got what we've pasted over. I'm going to pick it up and just move it out and then get rid of the old one, because it just seems to work better that way. I'm then going to go over to my settings, and where we have page settings, I'm going to go down to general, and I'm going to say disable the header and footer. So that is now completely eliminated. Now let's get rid of some of the spacing. We go to our banner, which I'm going to rename to be 404. Go to my layout, and I'm going to completely get rid of that clamp because we don't need it. I'm going to go to my height over here, and I'm going to say 100 VH, so it's now full height of the screen. If you put 100%, it doesn't work like that, you know, VWVH. Go to my container, which currently has some padding. I'm actually going to remove that. We don't need that either. Yeah, we'll leave the width in about 600, something like that. I'm going to go back to my 404 section, and I'm going to say align the main axes to be in the center like that. I've gone and changed my text a little bit. We are going to drop a button in, but the first thing I'm going to do before we do any of that is actually give my background a bit of an image. So at the moment we've got a color. I'm actually going to remove that completely, and we're going to go and pick one of our images. And then I'm going to go to the gradient overlay. I'm going to set this to be an overlay. And then I'm going to pick a color, go with a white color, and I'm just going to drop the transparency, go over to typography, and I'm going to give this a darker color like that. Give it a heavier weight as well. 600 is a bit better. Now I'm going to go back to my home page, and I'm just going to pick up this button here, drop it in like that, make sure it's actually sat inside of it. Go to my container, go to my content, give this a row gap of 2 rem like that. In fact, we might as well make sure everything is centered as well. And then the button, we're just going to change the wording. I'm going to go to an internal post page, and I'm going to pick the home page like that. So if we just view this, that's what you're going to see when you hit a page or an old URL. It's a good idea to get this done before you do your rank math, because otherwise, when you start to activate like 404 monitoring, and suddenly you see you got 20 pages, you want to know that they were actually going somewhere useful. In fact, if we just view this on the front end, you click it, it's going to take you back to the home page. We should double check though what that looks like on the mobile. Always do that. And it's looking fine, you know, responsively. You got your 2 rem on the left and right, and the sizing will adjust accordingly, and that's fine. Don't forget to set the display conditions. Click the cog or the settings, go to template settings, conditions, and then say add condition, and this is going to be the error page. So now let's go over and have a look at RankMath in terms of the SEO. Now I've already installed it. The very first time you do it, by the way, you will go through a wizard. And I'm going to go back through that again. So ignore what you see here. Imagine you've just installed it. It is a free plugin. There is a pro premium version as well. But believe me, you can get a lot out of it for free. And 99% of the time, that's what I'm using. Click the setup wizard. It's a good idea to go through the advanced. Easy skips quite a bit. Decide on what your business is. It really is self-explanatory. Go and pick your logos. I strongly recommend getting a square one in when it comes to social sharing images. It just works better. Save and continue. Then what you want to do is connect. Now, if this is blank, all you've got to do is hit connect, and it will ask you to log into Gmail or Google and then it will say, do you now want to connect? And you just enable it. That's all you do. There are some further steps we do need to address, which we will do later after we've quickly skimmed through the settings. Save and continue. And then decide if within your sitemap you do want the categories to be involved. I would say, yeah, go for it. I'm actually going to remove the templates, and I'm just going to go for posts, pages, and categories. If you have a WooCommerce store or e-commerce, you will probably see product categories as well. It makes sense to go and include them. Let's hit save and continue. Leave that as it is, save and continue. And that's basically it. I'm just going to return to the dashboard now. And we now have loads of settings. But before we do that, let's have a quick look at the dashboard. Do you want to do 404 monitoring? Well, we just set up the error page. So yeah, we'll do that. And we'll revisit the settings later, so don't worry about clicking into each of them right now. Just quickly skim through this bit. We are going to okay everything here. We're not going to do image SEO. I'll explain why. In fact, I'll tell you why. If you click into this, what will happen is it will add missing alt attributes on its own. So if you imagine you've loaded an image and it was XY, CCC, 1256, whatever, right? Because it's come from your camera, that will become the alt attribute. And you don't want that. Unless your titles of your images that you're loading through make sense and are descriptive for web accessibility, I don't like to go for this. So I used to, and then I suddenly realized, no, this is not a great thing to do. Instant indexing, absolutely. Link counter, local SEO, all of that. Redirections will also set that up so that if we have got a 404 page, we can then say, anything with this particular URL, just go directly to the home page or a different post URL. We'll leave that. The role manager, I'm not bothered about. SEO analyzer, sitemap, and we haven't got a store, and that's it. We're then going to go down to general settings, and we're going to skim through this. As far as links go, I'm not going to change anything. Breadcrumbs, I'm not going to change anything. Webmaster Tools. Now, We're going to return to this when we get to analytics because we do have to do something here for the Google Search Console, and I'm going to quickly go through that. Others, I'm going to leave as it is. Edit, leave, edit HTS, leave blocks. I'm not going to do anything there. 404, I'm going to leave that as it is, and redirections. Anytime it does occur, just redirect straight to the home page, and that's not a bad thing to do. So let's hit save changes. Content AI, you are given a bit of a limit as to how much you can do before RankMath will want you to start purchasing extra credits, but what they give you for free is often more than enough. Now let's go to titles and meta. There's only a few things you need to change this. Don't get overwhelmed. I'm going to leave everything here as it is. Local SEO as well. Local SEO, you might want to change if you want to add in your address, and that's the whole point of adding it. If you've got any, group pages or something you've set up for your business, go and stick them in. Homepage leave, well, there's nothing to do where authors. Decide on if you do want them to be indexed. So if it's just you, leave it. There's no index. No index means it's not going to get added to your sitemap and all that. Or it is in your sitemap, but it doesn't get indexed. If, however, you are allowing people to guest post on your website because it's a very broad blogging website or even multi-vendor WooCommerce, then you might want to go and index, but I'm going to leave that. Miscellaneous pages, I'm going to leave that. Now, the key ones, though, here are post and pages. What is the schema you're almost setting up here? So for post, I would say I definitely want it to be an article. Now, you do have a range here. So if your website is kind of sharing videos or it's sharing courses or information about a book, go and choose. Article is a pretty good one to go for. When it comes to pages, you now have to think a little bit more. So is article now still the right thing, or maybe you want to go for service? Because in a way, your homepage, your about page and all of that, if you're advertising web design or you're a solicitor or an accountant, so have a think about what you're going for. You don't really want your homepage to be classed as an article because it's not an article really. You don't need to worry too much about all of this in terms of headline and that, because we're going to refine that per page. Now, I'm only going to do the home page and very quickly show you one of the posts as well. But do it per page. Don't just add in like a bog standard. This will be the headline and the description for every page, because I feel like the whole point of adding tools like this is just to do it a little bit extra to help yourself out. Attachments, we'll leave that. Templates, we'll leave that. Categories, well, sorry, I'm probably rushing it now. If you don't want the categories and tags to be included, go and set them to be no index. Now, in this scenario, I do. Template tag, leave that. Template bundle, leave that. Let's just hit save changes. Sitemap, we are going to come back to later on, okay? But you can, if you want, go through again and decide, do you want them included or not? Now, you'll notice my tags on the previous setting and now is not included, because I haven't set any tags up. If I start to put tags into my posts, I would include them. Categories, obviously we do want that. Pages, yes. Posts, yes. If you install WooCommerce, then product categories will pop up here as well, and I think products. So obviously you want to include them. I have not got WooCommerce on here, which is why it's blank. Instant indexing, we'll come back onto that after we've done a bit of setting up. 404 monitoring, well, there's going to be something will probably pop through here at some point during the tutorial. Often, before you know it, 2 or 3 pages pop up and you go, why has that happened? So don't worry about that. Redirections, we've already said go to the home page, and that's really it. You don't really need to worry about anything on here. You could go, well, what about SEO Analyzer? What this will do is analyze your page and start to say, have you got enough ingoing, outgoing links? Have you got a keyword in a H1 or H2? Have you got, are your header tags in like order? So H1, H2. What you don't want to do is H1, H5, H2, H3, no, H4, H3, it doesn't like it. So let's now address the bit I skipped over, which was the webmaster tools and the analytics. Now, what we need to do is just go through a few motions with Google Search Console to get a verification code. Now, if you're using a website that's connected to, say, like a subdomain or a staging site, 9 times out of 10, it's already going to be automatically verified, which is what happened to me here. But here's what you need to do if you were doing it from a fresh website. You've done RankMath, you've done all this, and you've gone and hit connect. Then what you need to do is go and do a search for Google Search Console, click it, and then you're probably going to have to log into your Google account, which is totally fine. Do that. Now, my website's already connected because I'm using a subdomain and it's driving it through the parent domain, but I'm going to show you what you would have done from scratch. You would click this, and then at the bottom it says add property, and then over here you would pop in the URL for the website. At the moment, this is saying that this is already auto-verified, but if you were not verified and you were doing this for the first time, you would get given a screen like this whereby you would have to copy this code, and that code you would then paste into here. You can see a copy of one code, which I'm already preempting. And then once you've pasted the code in, you hit save changes. What if you come here and it has automatically connected like mine, but I still want to go and pop the code in here? Well, can I do that? I want to be sure. It says to me it's all verified, but I still want to get something in. Here's how I go and get a copy of the old code. You go to where it says settings. You then click ownership verification because it's already ticked. You click that. You go to HTML tag. Well, this is where you would go to get that tag, that big digit code thing. However, I can't get it because it's already verified. But here's how you get it again. You click on domain name provider. You copy this code here. Just copy that. Go back over here. And now look at the way this is telling you to write it. And then I'm going to hit save change. Now, the other thing we need to do is sort out a Google Analytics 4. Once you've done this bit, then move on to that. So what you want to do, go over to Google, do a search for Google Analytics, go and click into it. Don't worry about the stats that you see here because we're going to set up a new one for our Bricks website. Now, when you first come to this, you might not realize that to set everything up, you've actually got to go down to admin over here. I really wish they would change the way this looks because some people don't think that. You go, oh, well, that's just my settings for styling. No, this is where you go. You click admin. You then click create account. I'm going to call this one Bricks Tutorial. I'm going to click next. I'm going to give this the same name just for consistency. There's no point going to the advanced option because this is for Universal Analytics, which stops from July. So, don't bother with that. And then start collecting your data. So this is a website. Pop in the URL. I'm not going to bother with any enhanced measurement. Yep, turn it off. I don't really care. We're then going to hit create stream. What then happens is a few screens pop up really quickly, like this screen over here. In fact, I'll show you it. This pops up and you'll get a warning, but don't worry about that because we've just connected. Sometimes it can take a week. So when you set this up for a client, don't say to them, yeah, within 48 hours, it will be fine. It can take a little bit longer. 9 times out of 10, it is 48 hours, but just bear that in mind. I'm going to go and click view tag instructions. And this is where you can use plugins to connect everything together. But don't forget, we are already using RankMath. But if you want to be extra sure of it, go to install manual, pick this up. I will put a link to a video in the video description whereby it helps to tell you how do you install this using code snippets for your header or your footer. Now, my tip to you, I'm just going to close that down. My tip to you is that you put it in your footer. If you put it in your header as a code snippet, you get much richer analytics, but it will affect your page speed score. You put it in your footer, it does not affect your page speed score. So it all depends on how much analytics do you want coming through. My Bricks tutorial is now visible. Property is the Bricks tutorial and the view is the Bricks tutorial. Did you notice I kept calling it Bricks tutorial just to keep it consistent? If you start giving it funky names like red, green, blue, you're going to get confused. Install analytics code, absolutely. And I've already said down here, email reports to me every 30 days. That is the Search Console and the analytics done. There is still one thing we still need to do though. Over here, if we go back to the overview, we have not addressed the sitemaps, but we're going to do that after we've gone and touched the pages and the posts. I hope the steps I've shown you on how to get connected with your console and your analytics was pretty simple. You can do it yourself. If you need someone to help you out, go and reach out, but it didn't take long. Now, if we go over to the pages, you'll notice that they all have non-applicable for SEO in terms of score, and it says keyword not set. Well, let's go and address and sort that out. Let's go. I'm going to do it for the home page. We're going to hit edit with Bricks and we're going to go over to settings and I'm going to go and hit page settings where we have SEO. Now, I've already gone and popped in something here. I'm just going to copy this out. I only did that just to kind of show you like you could pop stuff in, basically. You could put keywords in and all of that. I don't recommend doing that if you are going to be using RankMath or anything or any other SEO tool like all-in-one, Squirrely, Yoast. I'm going to say delete anything you have here. Go and save your page. Now, one of the problems with slightly using bricks is that you don't have like RankMath fully integrated. In other page builders, it is. Here it is not so. This is where if you're building on a laptop, it's going to get a little bit peculiar. So make sure you're using a good size screen, because what we're going to do is open up two windows. Let me go and open up WordPress like this, and I'm now going to go back into pages. We still have the home page, and now we have it over here as well. I'm going to go back to the home, and rather than do edit with bricks, I'm now going to say edit. And then I'm going to pick this window up and I'm going to put it side by side in two separate windows. Before I do that, let me go and hit it here. So over here it says 22 out of 100. That is the current RankMath score. I'm surprised it's even got 22 if I'm really honest. But anyway, let's click that and then we have a window appear here, but you probably can't see that very well until I move it over here. Let me click the three dots here and then we go and get RankMath again. So this is where you can have it almost look like it is integrated, because what we want to do is, if we find that, oh well, we're missing the keyword in a title or a H1 tag or something like that, I want to fix it, and then I want to refresh this and see it. I don't want to have to keep jumping in and out. And I know you could say, well, it's just another tab. I'm telling you now, when you're working with RankMath and tools like this, it's really good to have it like on a side by side. It just makes it easier. We don't have any keywords assigned. Now, this fake website, I've limited myself as to what I've done here. If this was a horse racing website, you could put horse racing, horse training, coaching, something like that. If it was a personal trainer, you would be going like aerobics trainer, personal trainer in New York, something like that. So by only going for web design, I am going to be really like rubbish here. And I'm just going to pop the word business in. And I'm doing that on purpose so that, because I know I've got the word there for my H1 tag, but keywords aren't just words. They can be phrases. So I could say business web design in London, business web design London, business web design shop, small business websites, entrepreneurs, consultants. You can nicheify or you can be very broad. Go and do your research and find out what you want to go for. And one of the cool things about RankMath is that when you do start putting in words, it does kind of give you some examples as well. So I'm actually just going to put a web design blog as well, like that. 4 of them have instantly gone yellow. That does not happen all the time. Don't be surprised if they all go red, because our main keyword is red. I'm going to say that this page is pillar content. If you have a post or a page which goes out of date very quickly, like it might be about Christmas 2022, well, why does anyone want to read about Christmas 22 unless there was something really exciting you want to share? That's not what you call pillar content, evergreen. Whereas your services page, your home page, anything like that, I would definitely say you want that to be evergreen. Let's go and edit the snippet first, because this is what will be visible on Google. So I've just said amazing London business websites from £1,000, and you can see the word business is in bold because that's our main keyword at the moment. I'm not going to change the permalink. I'm going to leave that. And remember, look, you are allowed up to 60 characters. Think very hard about what you're doing. Just expand on the screen a little bit. And we can now see the score is 81 out of 100. Where were we? 22, I think. Just by me doing 5 keywords or phrases, doing the snippet, we've shot up into the green. And you might go, whoa, hold on. That felt a little bit too easy. Sometimes you have to do a bit more work. It does depend on your keywords and how much you're nicheifying. Anyway, let's just carry on over here. Let's see if there's anything else we can improve on. So we can see that our keyword is in the meta title. It's at the beginning of our word. I've got the word business cropping up quite a lot. Look, got it there, got it there. I've got the word website popping up in lots of places. But we can see that I do still have some errors. The first one is going to be that our image, we don't have one with our keyword. You may start going, well, okay, I'll just do it to this image, or I'll do it to this image. Well, no, because these are actually background images on my container or even the section. It won't get picked up. What you need to do is actually have an image. Now, over here, I do have 3 images. So I'm going to go into any one of these images. You can do it on all of them or individually. I'm going to go to my content, pick that image, go to the alt text, and I'm going to say business website. I mean, I don't have to put the word website in, but I'm going to put business website product. The key bit was the word business. I'll refresh this page over here. Bear in mind, yeah, look, I am clicking again, but I'm still keeping everything in like, 2 windows, easy for me to analyze and look at. And when I scroll down again, it now says there's only 2 errors because the image is in. And I do want to prove a point. If you go to this image here, and you go and click it, where is it? There it is. It says web designer working on a business website with her laptop. But because it's a container image, like the background image, right? Same with the section, it does not get picked up. So don't go, well, I've got 20 images on there with my keyword. Why is it not working? You gotta have an image. And if you don't have any images, because all of your images are background images, then your logo. Do it there then. Put the keyword in the logo. Oh yeah, I've got the logo down here on the down here. Yeah, we'll put it into that one as well. We are told the keyword density is 6.47, which is quite high. Look, if you now want to remove the word business, so want to rock your business and all of that, go for it. That's entirely up to you. And then we are also told that we did not use content AI to optimize the page. Well, let me just show you this. This is now, in fact, let me show you the score before we do that. The score is now 84 out of 100. Just click Content AI, then hit Research. You will only have, I think, it's either 5 or 15. I can't remember credits. I've got more, but roughly 5 or 15. Every time you use this, it will use up a credit. You can refine it to be location specific in terms of country, or just do worldwide. And what it's going to do is start to say to you, oh, well, look, your score is 46 in terms of content. What about if you go and use words like this? What about if you go in, let me just go to, well, here you go. Here's loads of keywords you could use. So if you're a little bit stuck for ideas, this is a great place to start. We could also go to questions. So common questions being asked. Nowhere on my website have I really got a question. I've got want to rock your website. Which is actually a repeat of what we had over there because I just duplicated it. But what about if you were to put something like, what is small business websites? What is a small business website? What are examples? And then you put your content in. So if anyone searches for that on Google, there's a slightly higher chance that they might find you. Now, all I've done is just gone and generated that. I'm not really going to be using anything here. I'm now going to hit the X. If I now go back over to RankMath, that error is now gone. I didn't use any. I just clicked it. I just clicked it. Literally, just click it. And now the tick. So that is a false negative. I really don't like it. Our score has now gone to 89. Peculiar, isn't it? What, are you telling me our score went up by 5% just by me clicking that? Yeah. Literally, that's it. We're now at 89. Now, I'm not going to get to 100 unless I start picking a much richer keyword, because that is a very poor one. But I just wanted to show you the simplicity of what we've just done. I'm going to save my page. Now, if we go to the home page, you will notice it says 81 out of 100, even though the score is 89. Don't worry about that. It's just slightly out of sync, but it will correct itself. But I want to show you one little tip or thing that I do on every website that some people kind of don't fully appreciate or know they can do this. I know my keyword is business. Now I'm going to go over here to my website and I'm going to do quick edit. This is the slug. This is the title. I'm now going to change it to say business designer in London, like that. And I'm going to change the slug as well to business web designer. Okay, you don't have to do everything I've done. You can mix it up. I just want to show you that your slug can be different to your name. I'm then going to hit update. That is now the name of our homepage, but obviously there is a bit of a problem because now that is our homepage over here, which I don't want it to say that. I still want it to say home. You go to menus. You go to where it now says it there. The minute you change it, it changes it here. But you click the arrow and you say the navigation label will say home. Hurrah! No, we'll just put home, right? And then you save your menu. We'll go back to pages. It still says business web designer in London. It still has the slug over there. And if we were to go and view the website, it now says home. The reason why you can do that is because you're reinforcing the keyword. So now let's go over to a post and let's do the same thing here. So the score is currently 3 out of 100. We're going to go into there. We don't have any keywords. So start thinking about what is your keyword here. I'm just going to pick up the title here. I'm now going to go to edit snippet. By the way, this is a fake post, right? So I'm just going to dump in the entire keyword there. And then what you do is just start to systematically go through some of the things that are coming up as red. Now, I will mention, though, you might not always hit like a green on all of them. So it says our title does not contain a power word. If you're a little bit unsure, just go and click that, scroll down, and you will then eventually get to a list of words. And eventually, you'll get all of that done. And you want to make sure you get into a routine of doing this for your important pages and your posts. Now, when you've done all of that, you will notice that all of your posts and pages also have an option now called instant indexing, which is where you submit the page. You want to make sure you do that, but we're going to do that after we've submitted our sitemap. If you go back over to Google Search Console, it has already added in the sitemap for the website because everything was connected up. If we go back over here to where we have RankMath and it says Sitemap Settings, the general, this is the one that's already submitted. What you want to do, though, is start submitting your posts and your pages as well. So what you want to do is pick this bit up here after the backslash, go over here and then hit submit. It's a good idea to do this after you've kind of done the RankMath upping of the score for a few pages and posts. Don't just do it when you've only done the home page, which is what I'm doing. Let's go and grab the post as well, and then we'll go and get the category. Well, we've got pages as well, so we'll do the page and the category, and we'll do the category as well. So let's just grab that. Now, if you had a WooCommerce store, you would obviously do the products and the product category as well. Now, if ever any of them fail, it might be because you've maybe got uncategorized, or you've got like a category in there and there's no post assigned to it, so you might need to go and double check that. So that's all been done. Now, if we go back over here and we go to, say, one of our pages or our posts, say I've made a change to the content or the scoring or the keywords, what you do is you go and hit instant indexing, and what it will do is it will do it. Now, I'm just going to do it for this one at the moment, and it will then basically instantly index. It's done it. If I now go to RankMath and I go down here to instant indexing and I go to history, you can see the one that I just did 8 seconds ago, okay? You can see all the others that I've started going through automatically. But what if you had a load of posts? You've just done it for 20 posts and you don't want to go click, 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 click. You could, if you want, go over to your post. Let's just go to this one. Go to where it says view. Right click and copy the link, go back to RankMath, go to instant indexing, and I could now do this. I can, if I want, also paste in another one. I'm not going to do it multiple times for obvious reasons. And I'm just going to paste that one in, and I'm going to say submit URL, and you should get a message to say successfully submitted. Okay, so what you want to do is go and initiate things. In fact, there is one thing I forgot to mention. I should have told you this. When you do this, before you do the instant indexing, you must do the URL inspection. So what you do is grab your URL, go to URL inspection, type it in like that, click return or click enter, and it will then say your website is now basically going to be indexed. It may say it's not ready to be crawled yet, or you need to request it. Go and click it. Don't click this multiple times. It can take 24 hours, 48 hours, even a little tiny bit longer. Just let it go through the motion. If it has not done it, though, after, say, a week, come back into Google Search Console and request indexing. Now, you can see here it says that one valid item. Yeah, that's fine. It's already gone through, okay? You can also go and view the crawled page, and it will highlight to you if your content is too small, not if it's kind of like condensed and not spaced out very well. That was the bricks tutorial. I haven't gone into WooCommerce or products or anything like that because I feel like we've got other WooCommerce videos that you could go and watch. And the same principles kind of kick in a little bit with you would create your product archive. You can either use the products widget that bricks give you, or you could build it yourself using the query loop, which is what I recommend. And Gridbuilder is a great filter system. But if you don't want to get it, or you don't want want to buy it or you want to use something else, you could still use the Bricks inbuilt filter system as well. I hope this has helped you to better understand Bricks and how you can make it work for you in terms of using some of the elements, using the clamp functionality, containers, flexbox, and all of that. Hey, I'm Imran from Web Squadron. I hope you like, subscribe, and share this video to many people or not. Please go and check out our website and our mastery modules. And of course, I'll see you.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life, I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings, bitch, hand me the bat.